Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Martial God. I can improve the quality of my abilities. Chapter 1. Su Shu was very panicked at this time. He awakened two rare superpowers, but they were both the lowest level E. The upper limit of the superpower of E-level quality is bronze superpowers, which means that he is likely to become the only rare double superpower bronze player in the future. After seeing his superpowers clearly, Su Shu was relieved. Quality improvement. Quality E. You can use the crystal core of the beast to improve the quality of all superpowers. The current number of crystal cores required for improvement: 100 black iron beast crystal cores. Weakness. Quality E. Causes 20 seconds of weakness to the target, and the target will be weak all over, unable to attack, and unable to use superpowers. The current quality improvement requires 100 black iron beast crystal cores. Fortunately, the first superpower can improve the quality, otherwise Su Shu may die in depression and live in resentment for the rest of his life. Today is the annual Superpower Awakening Conference of Luoan Superpower High School. All students over the age of 18 gathered on the playground to awaken their superpowers. At this time, standing not far in front of Su Shu, was Li Yafei, who also awakened dual superpowers. Unlike Su Shu, the other party awakened dual SS-level superpowers of water and ice. Because it was too amazing, a strange phenomenon appeared, and the entire Luoan High School and even the entire Luoan city knew about it. At this time, the position where she stood seemed to have become the center of the entire Luoan High School, and she also became the focus of all students, with stars supporting the moon and shining brightly. Countless classmates cast envious eyes on her. And Su Shu, on the other hand, cast a weak and powerless look. Well, he just wanted to try how effective his weakness was, whether it could have an effect on dual SS-level superpowers. Suddenly, at the moment when Su Shu's superpower fell on the other party suddenly softened and uttered a shameful moan, "Ah!" Then the other party suddenly disappeared and came to Su Shu's arms. Suddenly, the soft jade was in his arms, and the four eyes met. Li Yafei was stunned, and his mind went blank. Su Shu was also stunned, and asked in his heart, "What kind of supernatural power is this?" Li Yafei was the focus of everyone's attention. His sudden disappearance immediately aroused everyone's doubts. They looked for him one after another, and then saw Li Yafei lying in Su Shu's arms. In an instant, Su Shu felt countless hateful eyes. "Where did you come from, you stinky loser? Let go of Li Yafei. You are looking for death. Let go of my goddess." "Ah, I'm going crazy, what did I see?" The scene was suddenly chaotic, and the crowd was indignant. Li Yafei finally reacted from his confusion at this time, staring at Su Shu, "Don't let me go." "Ah." Su Shu finally reacted after being reminded by the other party, and subconsciously let go. Bang! Li Yafei, who was unable to move, fell directly to the ground. "Ah." He actually threw my goddess to the ground. "Su Shu, you are not a human being. There is such a mean person. I am going crazy. Ah, how could he bear it? Su Shu, I will kill you." At this time, a young man in red clothes rushed straight towards Su Shu, with flames condensing in his hands. This person's name is Huang Zhang. Because of his prominent family background and good academic performance, he is also a focus of attention in Luo and Yigao. This time he did not disappoint everyone's expectations, awakened the S-level fire ability, and became one of the most eye-catching talents in Luo and Yigao. At the same time, he is also Li Yafei's most loyal pursuer. "Didn't you ask me to let him go?" Su Shu shouted unhappily. At this time, everyone was overwhelmed by anger, wishing that Huang Zhang could kill Su Shu directly, so how could they listen to Su Shu's words? Looking at Huang Zhang, who was rushing towards him with great momentum, Su Shu was in a hurry and gave him a weak and powerless blow. "Ah!" Huang Zhang unconsciously let out a shameful moan. Afterwards, Huang Zhang disappeared from the spot, and then appeared in Su Shu's arms, and suddenly, the four looked at each other. Huang Zhang was dumbfounded, staring at the cheek with clear contours above, and his brain fell into confusion for a while. All the students were also stunned, their brains all fell into a dead state, and the whole place was instantly quiet, and you could hear a pin drop. After a long time, Huang Zhang spoke blankly. What kind of superpower is this?" Su Shu said affectionately. "My superpower is called brothers to hug me. Huang I hug your sister, let me go. Okay. Su Shu was very straightforward and let go directly. Suddenly, Huang who was unable to move, fell directly to the ground, and smoke and dust rose. At this time, Li Yafei finally recovered, climbed up in a mess, and then looked at Su Shu angrily. I will kill you. As he said, he raised his arm, and in an instant, a water dragon rushed out of his body, wandering on his arm, and was about to shoot at Su Shu. Seeing this, Su Shu quickly threw a weak hand to the other party. Suddenly, the water dragon in Li Yafei's hand disappeared, and she also disappeared at the same time. Ah! The shameful moan came again. The soft jade was in his arms again, and the four eyes met again. Su Shu looked down at Li Yafei's watery eyes and said softly, well, I'm sorry, I have no choice. Please forgive your uncle this time. Li Yafei's eyes widened, and his face was full of anger. Whose uncle are you? Get out, you shameless guy. Then I'll let go, Su Shu said, pretending to let go. Li Yafei was anxious. Wait. She wanted to wait, but Su Shu didn't bother to pay attention to her, just threw him on the ground and ran away. He had no choice, because countless students had already rushed towards him. Beat him, shameless, beat him up. It must be said that Su Shu was still foresighted. As soon as he ran away, countless people flooded his previous position. If he was still there, he would definitely be beaten to a pulp. Suddenly, under the leadership of Su Shu, everyone began to run on the playground. From time to time, someone wanted to take a shortcut to intercept Su Shu. Su Shu directly gave the other party a weak and powerless look, then let him go and ran. However, Su Shu's superpowers were not infinite. After only 5 or so times, the superpowers were exhausted. Just as he was about to be caught up, a loud roar suddenly came from the podium. Stop, what a disgrace. Suddenly, everyone stopped, and the students who were knocked down also climbed up. Su Shu stood outside the crowd, breathing heavily and relieved at the same time. At this time, on the podium, a middle-aged man with a blue beard and blue hair was holding a microphone, looking at the audience seriously, especially looking at Su Shu twice. He was the principal of Luoan Yigao High School, Wang Wuchen. Seeing the other party looking at him, Su Shu immediately raised his head and chest, then raised his hand and pointed at the group of people. Principal, they want to kill me, but I am a future superpower star. If I am crippled or killed, it will be a huge loss for Luoan Yigao. As soon as these words came out, they immediately aroused the indignation of a group of students again. If the principal was not staring at the audience at this time, I am afraid they would rush up to beat Su Shu again. Even Wang Wuchen, who was usually serious, twitched his mouth after hearing Su Shu's words, and his blue beard kept shaking at the corners of his mouth. Out of curiosity, Wang Wuchen looked at Su Shu and asked, what quality of superpower do you have? Su Shu raised his head and chest. E-level. All of a sudden, everyone was dumbfounded. What kind of face did he have? How could he say a lowest level superpower, E, with an SSS temperament? After hearing this, Wang Wuchen's mouth twitched again, and he nodded. Okay, E-level, right. Starting tomorrow, the important tasks of the school will be handed over to you. Su Shu's eyes lit up. Principal, what is the task? Sweep the toilet. Wang Wuchen's voice directly increased by several decibels, almost shouting. After hearing this, Su Shu wanted to speak again, but Wang Wuchen ignored him directly. Shut up. Su Shu didn't dare to speak immediately, and other students looked at him and gloated. Ahem. Wang Wuchen picked up the microphone again. Today is the most important day for everyone. After the awakening of superpowers, you have the ability, which is equivalent to having responsibilities. I believe everyone has seen the news last night. The gate of the beasts in Honghai City went out of control, resulting in 20,000 deaths, 40,000 injuries, and countless people displaced. This is a sad news, and it also reminds us all the time that without strength, there is no room for survival. You must seize every moment to improve your strength. Not to mention protecting the world and all mankind, at least you must be able to protect yourself and your family. Okay. Next everyone go to Teacher Joe to report your newly awakened superpowers. So that we can count and report. After speaking, Wang Wuchen put down the microphone and walked off the stage. Of course, Su Shu was the first to come to the registration office. He didn't dare to queue up, fearing that some people would be upset and attack him from behind. Superpower. Su Shu. Brother, give me a hug. Teacher Joe, who was at the level, subconsciously looked up at Su Shu. Call me teacher, who are you calling brother? Su Shu was stunned. Well, teacher, my superpower is to call me brother, give me a hug. Teacher Joe suddenly realized. Well, type. Su Shu thought about it. It should belong to the special system. Teacher Joe nodded. Well, quality. Su Shu. E level. Well, good, you haven't awakened other superpowers, right? Su Shu hurriedly asked. Teacher, I can write with my feet while doing splits. Does this count? Get lost. Teacher Joe dragged out a long tone and pointed to the side. Su Shu had no choice but to leave. No one would believe the truth. At this time, other students came to line up to register. Without exception, everyone looked at Su Shu angrily when they passed by. Su Shu opened his eyes wide and stared back one by one, not giving in at all, especially Huang Zhong with a fierce look. When Li Yafei walked in front of Su Shu, she also looked at Su Shu with resentful eyes. After all, Su Shu embarrassed her in front of so many people. It would be a lie to say that she didn't hate him. In fact, it was Su Shu's fault at the beginning, so he felt guilty, so he apologized embarrassedly. Well, uncle didn't mean it. Li Yafei was even more angry. Who are you, uncle? If you want to die, just say it. Su Shu didn't care about him and hurried away, because many people had already registered and came. If he didn't leave, he would probably be besieged again. After waiting for a long time in the classroom, the classmates came back one after another. Su Shu, you are so brave, the goddess of the whole school, Li Yafei, was hugged by you. That Huang Zhong was so angry. You don't know, that guy is like a fool every day, I have been annoyed with him for a long time. A fat boy walked in front of Su Shu and couldn't help but praise him. The other party's smile squeezed the fat on his face, squeezing out black seams. This person's name is Zhang Yuan, and as the name suggests, he is very round. Su Shu quickly said modestly. No, Li Yafei voluntarily got into my arms. There is no way, he is too handsome, I still have to pay more attention to safety when I go out in the future. Otherwise, there will always be girls who will plot against me. Zhang Yuan was speechless, he found that he could not communicate normally with Su Shu. Seeing that the other party was silent, Su Shu quickly stood up and patted Zhang Yuan. Yuan, what quality of superpowers have you awakened? Speaking of this, Zhang Yuan immediately lost confidence. A-level Earth superpowers, heavy armor. Su Shu's eyes lit up after hearing this. Heavy sandbag. I have attack skills in the future, can I practice with you? Zhang Yuan was speechless. Brother Shu, it is heavy armor. Su Shu waved his hand. Don't care about these details. Zhang Yuan turned around and left, no longer paying attention to Su Shu. The other party's words were really irritating. Su Shu wanted to chase him, but the head teacher Luo Tianyi walked into the classroom, and he had to sit down in the end. Afterwards, Luo Tianyi encouraged everyone and talked about some encouraging policies of the school. The most attractive one is of course the first one. The school will recommend 4 students to Longyuan University of Extraordinary Powers. They will be selected through the final exams. These 4 students do not need to look at their academic performance. Longyuan University of Extraordinary Powers is the top university of extraordinary powers in China, located in Longyuan City, the center of China. More than 1,000 years ago, various gates of extraordinary powers suddenly appeared all over the world, and various powerful extraordinary beasts emerged from them. During that time, humans suffered unprecedented disasters, and countless people died in that disaster. That year was called the first year of darkness for humans. However, people later discovered that after the gate of extraordinary beasts appeared, all humans who reached the age of 18 would awaken various powerful extraordinary powers on their own, and they could also enhance their extraordinary powers through the crystal cores of extraordinary beasts. Finally, under the counterattack of various superpowers, the beasts were beaten back to the gate of the beasts. However, from time to time, various beasts would still run out of the gate of the beasts to cause trouble. In order to prevent humans from slacking off after restoring peace, the predecessors of superpowers changed the place names of various places into the names of the gates of the beasts, hoping that the younger superpowers would always remember the gates of the beasts in various places. Longyuan City was named after the Gate of Longyuan. Similarly, the origin of Luoan City is also because of the Gate of Luoan. The same is true for Honghai City, which originated from the Gate of Honghai. Because the worlds led to by the gates of various beasts are different, the beasts inside are also very different and their strengths vary. Longyuan Gate is the gate of the beasts with the strongest strength so far. Similarly, the beasts are powerful, and the superpowers they carry are also the most powerful, special, and of the highest quality, which is a rare thing for future superpowers. Apart from the teaching strength and various welfare policies of Longyuan University, it is also very attractive to be backed by the Dragon Abyss Gate, and there is a great chance to obtain high-quality supernatural powers in the future. So after the class teacher Luo Tianyi said this policy, the group of people below were immediately excited and couldn't help but rub their hands. On the other hand, Su Shu was not interested. Nonsense, there are great opportunities there, and at the same time, it is the most dangerous of all the supernatural universities. Studying in the supernatural university is not for fun, you need to go to the supernatural gate frequently for training, which is life-threatening at any time. However, Luo Tianyi's next words made Su Shu a little moved. If you are successfully selected, the school will reward you with 500 bronze-level beast crystal cores. Luo Tianyi said softly. Su Shu couldn't help but perk up after hearing this. Others may not know, but he himself should know that his ability needs beast crystal cores to improve its quality. It takes 100 to upgrade to D level, not to mention the later ones, and cultivation also requires a lot of beast crystal cores. Now Su Shu can be said to be the one who lacks this thing the most. Of course, it's not just Su Shu who lacks it, all other psychics lack it, so this thing is sold very expensively, and only 1,000 yuan can buy a black iron quality one. Even if Su Shu's parents' family assets are emptied now, they can only buy dozens of them at most. Later, Luo Tianyi talked about some other welfare policies of the Psychic University, but the welfare provided by the school is very little, or there is no welfare at all. This made Su Shu lose interest in the Psychic University behind. Okay, then I'll choose Longyuan Psychic University. Unconsciously, Su Shu said his decision. Instantly, the whole classroom suddenly became quiet, and you could hear a pin drop. Everyone turned to look at Su Shu, and everyone's eyes were full of disbelief. One of the students couldn't help it. Su Shu, you are a low-level E-level psychic, how dare you say you want to enter Longyuan Psychic University? Ha ha ha. All of a sudden, everyone laughed. Ha ha ha. Hiccup, someone slapped the table and laughed, then suddenly closed his eyes, lay back, and fainted. Even the class teacher Luo Tianyi couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he saw Su Shu, and tried hard not to laugh. Su Shu, what do you mean? You look down on me, right? Let's make a bet. If I can successfully enter Longyuan Alien University, each of you will give me 100 black iron alien beast crystal cores. On the contrary, if I can't enter, I will give you 100 each. Everyone stopped immediately, and Zhang Yuan said, Su Shu, are you serious? Without waiting for Su Shu to answer, one of the young men with a serious face stood up. Okay, I'll bet with you. This man is Zhao Yubing. Because of his wealthy family, he always looks down on the poorer classmates in the class. Of course, Su Shu is also the one he looks down on. Su Shu stood up directly. Classmate Zhao Yubing, you are the first one. Is there anyone else? Everyone can. Zhao Yubing's mouth twitched. My name is Zhao Yubing, not Zhao Yubing. Su Shu waved his hand. It's the same, don't care too much about these details. At this time, other classmates also started to make a noise. I'll bet with you. I'll bet with you too. Okay. Su Shu quickly took out a piece of paper and started writing, and soon wrote a bet agreement. Then he took out a box of ink and put it next to him. Come here and sign, don't cheat. Everyone looked at the box of ink, and their mouths twitched. They really couldn't figure out how someone could bring such a thing to school. But soon they didn't care anymore, and hurried forward to sign and press their fingerprints. This was a crystal core that was earned for free. How could there be any reason not to sign? As he signed, Zhao Yubing suddenly thought of something and reacted. Wait. You only have one copy of this thing. If we win, what can we use to cash it out with you? Su Shu waved his hand. This is simple, just take a good photo with your mobile phone. As soon as these words came out, everyone suddenly realized, and the students who signed took out their mobile phones to take pictures, and Zhao Yubing also hurriedly signed and took out his mobile phone. At this time, Su Shu suddenly shouted to Luo Tianyi, who was standing on the podium, "Teacher, I report them for bringing mobile phones." Even Luo Tianyi was stunned on the spot, and those who took out their mobile phones were even more dumbfounded. The mobile phones in their hands were neither suitable for taking pictures nor for putting away. Seeing that Luo Tianyi did not move, Su Shu said again, "Teacher, according to Article 1238 of the school rules, all students who travel to school are not allowed to bring mobile phones into the school. Mobile phones of students who live on campus can only be placed in the dormitory safe and cannot be brought into the classroom. Otherwise, they will be confiscated." In the end, there was no choice. Luo Tianyi could only say, "Those who bring mobile phones, hand them in. Come and pick them up at the end of the semester." The students who took out their mobile phones had no choice but to hand them in. Without exception, everyone looked at Su Shu with resentment. This kid is really hateful. Zhao Yubing was so angry that he gritted his teeth. "Just wait for me." Su Shu stuck out his tongue. "If you have the guts, challenge me now." Zhao Yubing was silent after hearing this. The scene on the playground before appeared in his mind. So many students were fooled by Su Shu. Even Li Yafei, who had awakened the double SS ability, couldn't do anything to him. Zhao Yubing had just awakened the A-level ability, so he couldn't do anything to Su Shu. What can he do to deal with such a contestant? Su Shu ignored him and continued to ask others to sign and put their fingerprints. Soon, almost all the students in the class signed. Su Shu couldn't help but look up at Zhang Yuan. "Yuan, you usually say that you have the best relationship with me, but now you are not merciful at all." Zhang Yuan was embarrassed by what he said, and he touched his head and said, "Brother Shu, I am actually in need of exotic beast crystal cores." Su Shu was too lazy to pay attention to this two-faced thing, and then looked up at the head teacher Luo Tianyi. "Teacher, if you don't stop us from making trouble, do you want to bet with me too?" Luo Tianyi, "Parents want their children to be successful. As a teacher, I am half of your parents. I also want my children to be successful, so I also hope that one of my students will be a talented person with a dragon source. Well, let me bet with you." Su Shu raised his head. "Teacher, as an adult, it's too much for you to mess with us children." Luo Tianyi raised his eyelids. "Why? Don't want to?" Su Shu shook his head. "No, you have to add money, and the bet is increased to 1,000. 1,000 beast crystal cores is not a small number. Even Luo Tianyi felt a little painful to take them out at once. In the end, he simply said, 500. Su Shu also said, "Okay." Seeing that Su Shu agreed so readily, Luo Tianyi immediately felt that he had been cheated. But the words had been said, there was no reason to regret, and in the end he could only step forward to sign and put his fingerprints. After finishing, he took out his mobile phone again. "They can't take pictures, but I can. If you don't fulfill your promise, I will ask for it for them." All of a sudden, all the students looked at Luo Tianyi with gratitude. After Luo Tianyi finished taking pictures, Su Shu picked up the paper, blew the ink on it, and then carefully folded it and put it in his pocket. At this time, Luo Tianyi said to Su Shu, "Don't forget, starting tomorrow, you will be responsible for sweeping all the toilets in the school." Su Shu was stunned and quickly explained, "Teacher, wasn't that a joke from the principal?" Luo Tianyi, "Joke? Who joked with you?" Su Shu was immediately depressed. "Good guy, it's real." Others couldn't help but gloat over this. I don't know why, seeing Su Shu suffer a setback, they felt a sense of comfort in their hearts, and it felt particularly good. After everyone finished playing around and it was time for school to end, Su Shu packed up his things and returned home. The situation at Su Shu's family is actually not very good. His parents' awakened powers are very poor, so their jobs are not good and their wages are very low, so they can barely make ends meet. The place where I live is a crowded old city, which is also called a slum by others. Panting and climbing up to the 6th floor, Su Shu opened the door and walked in. "Dad, Mom, I'm back." Su Mu was cooking. "Sure is back, wash your hands and eat." At the dinner table, Su Shu's father, Su Yixin, asked while eating, what kind of power was awakened today. The other party's words were neither sad nor happy, and seemed to be routine. But Su Shu didn't care at all, because he knew that it was the influence of his father's awakened power that made him like this. Speaking of which, my father's superpowers are considered weird in the weird world. The name of the power is emotionlessness, which means that the owner can have no emotions. Su Shu thinks it is of no use anyway. In comparison, Su Shu felt that his mother's powers were more useful. Sus mother's power is that she can summon a pan. Su Shu thinks that this is at least a weapon. It can also cook vegetables, and she can even use it to shoot her father during a quarrel. Anyway, Su Shu saw her mother holding a pan and pointing at her father to argue more than once. When asked about the superpowers, Su Shu did not hide anything and said directly, "Father, I have awakened dual superpowers." Su Yixin and Sus mother's eyes suddenly lit up after hearing this. Double superpowers are indeed rare. Su Yixin nodded slightly. Okay, what quality is it? Su Shu. They are all E-level. Sus mother's eyes widened immediately after hearing this, while Su Yixin was very calm. She nodded slightly and said, "It's okay. Just wait until graduation and learn to drive an excavator with me." Su Shu's eyes widened after hearing this. "Father, do you mean that there is nothing I can do to save you?" Su Yixin nodded lightly. "If you can save it, learn from me. You can participate in the national excavator competition in the future and strive to come back with a 4th place." Su Shu was dumbfounded. "You can only get 4th place in the end." Su Yixin glanced at Su Shu. "Think about it, the top 3 at least have the auxiliary ability to drive an excavator. Your ability is of no use. So you can get 4th place at most." Su Shu, "But you haven't even asked me what my superpower is." Su Yixin, "The person who assists in driving the excavator must be at least D level." After hearing this, Su Shu was stunned on the spot as if he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. Mother Su quickly comforted her. "You don't have to drive an excavator, Shu'er can also deliver food. I heard from a neighbor yesterday that his son earned 1.02 million in 3 years of delivering food." Su Yixin turned to look at Sus mother. "Are you stupid? Can you believe that? I used to take advantage of the holidays to give gifts, and the maximum I gave to the deceased was 10,000 yuan a month. How could it be more than 1 million in 3 years? It's more like giving gold." Su Shu didn't want to talk to them anymore, it was too shocking, so he went back to the room without eating. Through his parents' words, Su Shu probably understood how humble E-level powers were. Even dual powers couldn't save him. No wonder the whole class readily signed a betting agreement with him. Even the head teacher signed the contract without hesitation. Is this because she loves him? This is the core of an alien beast that loves to gamble. Betting against Su Shu is like Su Shu giving it to them for free. Even if Su Shu cheats and refuses to give in the end, they won't lose anything because Su Shu can't win. Fortunately, I have a power that can improve the quality of the power, otherwise I would really regret it for the rest of my life. GG, just wait. When the time comes, I will be admitted to Longyuan University, and then I will see what your faces look like. Early the next morning, as soon as Su Shu entered the school gate, he heard others talking about him. After arriving in the classroom, he roughly figured out the reason. It turned out that the incident of gambling between himself and the whole class had spread, and all the students who heard about it were despised. Su Shu even heard someone say that if Su Shu really passed the exam, he would stand on his head and eat shit. Su Shu wanted to rush over and sign a gambling agreement with the other party for cheating on food and drink. But then I thought about it and it definitely wouldn't be possible, so I just ignored it. After arriving in the classroom, Su Shu didn't say a word. Under the blank stares of everyone, he just picked up the desk and stool and left. Soon, Su Shu came to the door of the toilet, which is usually the most crowded place. After putting down the table, he sat down, took out the banknotes, and wrote a few big words, "Use the toilet, 5 yuan per time." Then Su Shu calculated. 1 5 yuan, 10 50, 100 500, at least 1,000 people a day, that's 5,000, which can buy 5 black iron grade alien beast crystal cores. In this infinite imagination, Su Shu began to wait. It was probably the time for the first class at this time, and no one came over. Su Shu suddenly felt a little bored. But at this moment, a person ran over holding his stomach, and was surprised when he saw Su Shu sitting here. Then he ignored Su Shu and prepared to bypass Su Shu and go to the toilet at the back. As a result, Su Shu immediately stopped him. Then Su Shu raised his finger and pointed at the paper on the table and said, "Classmate, it's 5 yuan for a trip to the toilet." The man was dumbfounded. "What? Are you charging excessively? This is a school toilet. I want to sue the teacher." Su Shu didn't waste any time. He took out his phone and clicked on the playback function. The principal's voice suddenly came from the phone. Okay, level E, right. Starting tomorrow, the important tasks of the school will be handed over to you." Then came Su Shu's voice. "Principal, what's the mission?" "Guard the toilet." However, the scanned characters were clearly out of sync and had obviously been processed. The man immediately became unhappy after hearing this. "What I heard was clearly toilet cleaning." "Su Shu, believe it or not, it doesn't matter if you don't pay. You know my powers. You don't want to suddenly appear outside when you're feeling comfortable, and then be accidentally photographed by me." At this time, the other party couldn't bear it anymore, threw 5 yuan to Su Shu, and then hurried away. "You're cruel." Su Shu stared at the money in his hand and was immediately delighted. "It's open." Not long after, the first class ended and the sound of "get out of class" was dismissed. Suddenly, dense crowds of people came to the toilet. As a result, everyone was dumbfounded when they saw Su Shu guarding the door and the piece of paper that said, 5 yuan for a trip to the toilet. Then there was an outpouring of anger and denunciation of Su Shu. Su Shu was not afraid at all. "You can go in, and I won't stop you too much. However, I have just awakened my powers, and I can't control them. If I suddenly lose control and release them on the way, I will get people out. I'm afraid that everyone will be embarrassed when the time comes." Suddenly, everyone was dumbfounded. To be honest, no one could do anything about Su Shu's weird power. Simply, those who were in a hurry paid and went in, while those who were not in a hurry went to another toilet. As class time comes, the door to the toilet gradually becomes deserted. But there was one person who didn't leave and kept standing next to Su Shu. This person was Su Shu's classmate, Sang Ping. Later, Su Shu saw that the other party was not leaving, so he couldn't help but ask, "Sang Ping, why don't you go back to class?" Sang Ping was surprised at first, and then got angry. "Nonsense, we are sitting at the same table. You moved the desk over. Where should I sit? Do you know that I squatted in the last class? You can just bring the desk, but you have to bring my 2 stools, and I won't have anywhere to sit." "Ah, I forgot," Su Shu said quickly, and after thinking for a while, "How about you sit here with me? We are the same table for one day, and we are the same table for the rest of our lives. Sang Ping, your sister and I, who wants to sit in front of the toilet with you?" Su Shu raised his hand. "You 2 and 8, at least 200 yuan a day." After hearing this, Sang Ping walked directly to the stool next to him and sat down. He said to Su Shu seriously, "Let me tell you first, I am not doing it for money. I can't bear to see you sitting in front of the toilet, so I come here to accompany you. Well, once you are at the same table, you will be at the same table for the rest of your life." Su Shu gave Sang Ping a thumbs up. "You know what you're doing, but you can't sit here." Sang Ping was surprised. "Then where should I sit?" "Su Shu, you carry the bench over there and guard the toilet closest to here. If they are unwilling to pay, then tell me to call me there." Sang Ping's eyes became brighter and brighter as he listened, and he gave Su Shu a thumbs up. "Gao, this move is too high, I'm going to do it now." Soon, the second class ended. There were obviously a lot less students coming here this time, but they all paid consciously, because these were basically people who were in a hurry, and those who were not in a hurry went to other toilets. "Su Shu, are you going too far? You charge extravagantly at the door of the toilet." At this time, a voice sounded. Su Shu turned around and saw Huang Zhong and Li Yafei standing over there. "Su Shu, I didn't force them to pay. They all volunteered." As he spoke, Su Shu turned to look at the people who had handed over the money and asked, "Are you guys right?" A group of people nodded quickly. "Yes." Huang Zhong's face suddenly turned the color of pig liver due to anger, but there was nothing he could do. Li Yafei frowned at this scene and said, "Su Shu, I know you gave up on yourself because you awakened the E-level power, but what I want to tell you is that you can also get into the liberal arts entrance exams with different key points. Why don't you, if you work hard, you won't be able to go out into society anymore. Let's go to the toilet too. Quote. Su Shu, what's wrong with the toilet? When others see me in the future, they are not allowed to call me supervisor. Li Yafei was stunned for a moment and sighed helplessly. It's true that mud can't hold up the wall. After saying that, he was about to go in. As a result, Su Shu immediately stopped him. Don't interrupt, trying to fish in troubled waters, I treat girls equally. Li Yafei suddenly felt aggrieved and looked up at Su Shu. How come you don't know how to show mercy to women? Su Shu, a woman will only affect the speed at which I make money. Think about it, if I let you in, wouldn't I earn 5 yuan less? At this time, Huang Zhang came forward and threw $5 on the ground. It's just $5, just give it to you. Su Shu glanced at the money on the ground, then looked up into the air. I can't see it and I haven't received it. If you want to go in, I won't stop you. When Huang Zhang saw this, he immediately gritted his teeth and took out another 5 yuan note and handed it to Su Shu. However, Su Shu didn't answer it at all. He looked down at the money on the ground and said nothing. The meaning was self-evident. Huang Zhang glanced at Li Yafei, who was almost unable to hold back, so he had to bend down and pick up the money and hand it to Su Shu. After seeing the other person take it, he said, you are so poor and have never seen money in your life, so you only deserve these $5. After hearing this, Su Shu raised his head and smiled. Don't use the toilet in school from now on. I will keep an eye on you at any time. Huang Zhang's expression froze after hearing this, and he turned around and left without waiting for Li Yafei to come out. After a while, when Li Yafei still didn't come out, Su Shu couldn't help but murmured, I pulled so much, are all fairies so good at pulling? Who do you think pulled too much? Suddenly, Li Yafei's voice sounded from behind Su Shu. Su Shukai didn't tolerate her and said directly, it means you pull more. You. Li Yafei was suddenly so angry that she was speechless. Su Shu, go quickly, don't affect my business. Li Yafei couldn't hold back a word for a long time. She looked very unhappy at Su Shu, but there was nothing she could do about him. Although I have awakened 2 SS level powers, I can't do anything with an E level power user. How can I make sense in this? In the end, Li Yafei could only leave in anger. After the other party left, there was no one around the toilet. Su Shu simply sat down and waited boredly. But not long after waiting, Su Shu faced the biggest crisis since he became the director. Luo Tianyi was seen walking straight towards this side, and at the same time, his voice reached Su Shu's ears. I think I can't control you kid anymore. You don't go to class, so you come here and charge arbitrary fees. Su Shu stood up quickly and said aggrievedly, Teacher, I also want to go to class, but it is difficult to disobey the principal's order. Luo Tianyi's eyes widened after hearing this. The principal asked you to come here and charge extravagantly. The principal asked you to clean the toilet. Su Shu nodded. Yes. Guard the toilet. Luo Tianyi was furious. It's sweeping, cleaning the toilet, not guarding, reading and reading into the dog's belly. How did you learn liberal arts? Su Shu shook his head firmly. It's guard, teacher, you heard it wrong. If you don't believe me, just listen. Su Shu took out his mobile phone and played the recording. Luo Tianyi looked at Su Shu with a look like a fool. Do you think I'm a fool? You have obviously dealt with the word guard. Su Shu was wrong, but you also told me to guard yesterday. Su Shu played the recording of Luo Tianyi's speech yesterday. Don't forget, starting tomorrow, you will guard all the toilets in the school. Luo Tianyi almost went crazy after hearing this, and didn't want to entangle with him, so he pulled Su Shu up directly. Come on, follow me to see the principal. In the principal's office, Su Shu was pushed in and staggered to the principal's desk. Looking at Su Shu in front of him, Wang Wuchen's beard at the corner of his mouth jumped a few times unconsciously. Su Shu smiled embarrassedly. Hello, principal. Wang Wuchen didn't say anything, but took a large stack of papers from the side and threw them in front of Su Shu. Take a look, it's only been 2 classes, these are all reports of you charging randomly at the toilet door. Su Shu flipped through them and nodded. It's okay, I'm doing it according to the principal's orders, they should find the principal. Wang Wuchen was stunned after hearing this, and then got angry. When did I order you to charge randomly? Just then, Su Shu turned on the recording, and Wang Wuchen's voice came from it. Guard the toilet. Afraid that Wang Wuchen didn't hear it clearly, Su Shu deliberately didn't turn it off, letting it loop continuously. Guard the toilet. Guard the toilet. Unexpectedly, Wang Wuchen did not get angry again, but sat back and nodded. Okay, you want to play like this, right? Su Shu was about to nod, when he suddenly felt the surrounding scenery suddenly changed. Then he found that he was already standing at the edge of the toilet, and the principal Wang Wuchen was standing next to him. I will push you down now and pull you out. You will not be injured, but you will be disgusted for the rest of your life. Su Shu turned his head and looked at Wang Wuchen, and immediately felt wronged. Principal, it's unnecessary, right? I didn't do it to deserve this retribution. Weak and powerless, while speaking, Su Shu decided to take the initiative and threw a weak and powerless to Wang Wuchen directly. But what made Su Shu dumbfounded was that Wang Wuchen was not affected at all, and was looking at him as if he was a fool. Your ability is indeed weird, a bit like the space system, but it also has a special system of control. But have you ever thought about it? The gap between our strength is too big, so it doesn't work on me. Su Shu would never admit it, and asked in a daze, what are you talking about, principal? Why are you suddenly talking about my ability again? Wang Wuchen looked at Su Shu and suddenly thought, if the other party became stronger, would it be a big disaster? If he was thrown into the world of alien beasts, would he turn the world upside down? Then the scene suddenly changed, and the two returned to the office. Su Shu looked at the scene around him and couldn't help but sigh. Principal, what kind of ability is this? It's too incredible. Wang Wuchen glanced at Su Shu. Space system ability, teleportation. Space system ability, 2. Su Shu said, and suddenly realized something. Principal, I really didn't use my ability on you just now. You have to believe me. Su Shu suddenly remembered what Wang Wuchen said to him in the toilet, and the other party had a space system ability, and it was obvious that he had used his ability on him. Wang Wuchen didn't say anything, staring at Su Shu and thinking carefully. Su Shu couldn't help but get nervous. Principal, please say something. After a long time, Wang Wuchen slowly spoke. Su Shu, don't be discouraged. After reaching bronze level, a superpower can absorb a superpower to gain new superpowers. You actually still have a chance, and your first superpower is actually a very powerful control skill. If used well, it will have unexpected results. After listening, Su Shu roughly understood what Wang Wuchen meant, and then he sighed. Principal, it's not easy to upgrade to bronze level. My family's situation is very bad, and I can't afford to buy superpower crystal cores for me to practice. If the principal is willing, give Maine 80000 or 10,000 superpower crystal cores, then there is still hope. Wang Wuchen, 8,000. 10,000. What are you thinking? Do you think I have money? Go back to class first, I'll think of a way. By the way, don't charge at the toilet door anymore. Su Shu was immediately embarrassed. But if you don't charge, I won't have money to buy crystal cores. Wang Wuchen glared. Didn't I say I'll find a way for you? Okay. Su Shu could only admit his defeat and left directly. Soon they returned to the toilet door, and Sang Ping came up to them directly. Brother Shu, where have you been? Su Shu spread his hands. I was called by the principal to be lectured. Sang Ping opened his mouth wide. Ah. What about our business? Su Shu glanced at the toilet, and was also a little unwilling, and then he made up his mind. Bring paper and pen. Then Su Shu sat at the table and began to write. Go to the toilet and pay 5 yuan voluntarily. There is a surveillance camera on it. If you don't pay, you can try it. He wrote more than 10 sheets in a row, and then handed them to Sang Ping. Take it and post it, one in each toilet. Sang Ping. Ah, does this work? Su Shu, try it. Then Sang Ping went to post it, and Su Shu moved the desks and stools back to the classroom. However, after school, Su Shu and Sang Ping went to check. Not only did they not receive the money, but the paper they posted was also torn off. The two sighed immediately, and it was indeed difficult to do business. Fortunately, they collected a few hundred yuan in the morning, and the two went home after dividing it. Walking on the road, Su Shu was thinking about what way out the principal would find for him. Suddenly, Su Shu suddenly felt a throbbing in his heart, and turned his head subconsciously, but saw nothing. Is it an illusion? Maybe. Walking, Su Shu came to an alley not far from home. Suddenly, a hard object pressed against Su Shu's head. Don't move. Su Shu subconsciously raised his hand. Don't be impulsive, I have money, I'll go back and get it for you. You kid is quite slippery. Where does a high school student get the money? A mocking voice came from behind. Su Shu tried to use his superpowers, but suddenly found that he couldn't use it, because he had never seen the other party, and couldn't make the superpowers fall accurately. At this time, Su Shu instantly understood the weakness of his own superpowers, that is, he couldn't use it on people he had never seen. What to do? Su Shu thought about it. Then he hurriedly said, my aunt used to be a gold superpower. She gave me a silver beast crystal core. You can go back with me to get it. The other party seemed to be moved after hearing it, and seemed to be hesitating. Suddenly, Su Shu moved, raised his right foot suddenly, raised it directly to his shoulder, kicked the opponent's hand away, and clamped the gun that fell from the opponent's hand. Don't move. Su Shu raised his leg, holding the gun on the sole of his foot and pointing it at the opponent, with the second toe ready to pull the trigger at any time. When Su Shu registered his supernatural power before, he was not joking. He could really write with his feet while doing splits. Similarly, he could also hold a gun with his feet. At this time, the person behind him suddenly ran to the side, and Su Shu quickly pulled the trigger. Bang! The huge recoil made Su Shu's feet numb. However, because the opponent dodged too quickly and Su Shu couldn't see behind him, he didn't hit him at all. At the critical moment, Su Shu turned his head suddenly and saw that the opponent's body was slowly becoming transparent. Invisibility ability. Su Shu couldn't help but be shocked. At this time, the opponent had completely disappeared, but fortunately Su Shu remembered the opponent's appearance. He quickly reached out and took the gun off his feet, and then directly threw a weak shot at the opponent. Ah! A groan suddenly came from the empty alley, and then Su Shu felt his arms sink, and it was obvious that the opponent had come to his arms. Because the ability was interrupted, the opponent also slowly appeared, and suddenly the four eyes met, staring at each other. Su Shu raised his gun directly to his head. Tell me, who sent you? The other party was surprised at Su Shu's special ability, then his face turned dark, turned his head away, and stopped talking. You don't want to tell me, right? Su Shu's gun was directly against the other party's lower body. The other party was shocked and shouted, a man can be killed but not humiliated. Su Shu was about to speak, but two women suddenly passed by, so Su Shu had to stop his action temporarily. When the two people passed by, Su Shu faintly heard the other party's words. In broad daylight, two men were hugging each other in the alley and masturbating. Su Shu was speechless. I had a real gun in my hand. But thinking about it, I felt relieved. After all, since the emergence of superpowers, guns have long been outdated and no one uses them. Only low-level superpowers still rely on them. In addition, China has banned firearms, and superpowers are forbidden to fight each other. There are no fighting competitions between superpowers. If you want to fight, go fight superpowers. So after seeing the pistol in Su Shu's hand, their first feeling was that it was fake. But now is not the time to think so much, just press against the other party's lower body. Do you want to tell me? If not, I will make you a eunuch. The other party still shook his head. Su Shu was immediately furious. Others were going to kill him. He couldn't be soft-hearted and talk about humanitarianism. He gritted his teeth and pulled the trigger. Seeing this, the other party knew that Su Shu was not joking with him, and quickly said, I said, it was Huangjong, he asked me to kill you. Although he had expected it in his heart, when he heard the name Huangjong from the other party, he still couldn't believe it. You have to know that no matter how big the hatred between him and Huangjong is, it is just a small grudge between classmates, and it can't rise to a fight to the death. I didn't expect the other party to be so cruel and actually sent someone to kill me. Well, in this case, don't blame me for being ruthless. Then Su Shu looked at the killer again. How much did he give you? To let you kill me. The man quickly stretched out his hand. 50,000. Su Shu was immediately furious. I'm only worth 50,000. Then Su Shu suddenly thought of something, and then said, what's your name? He's Zijin. The other party stammered. Su Shu nodded. Okay, stand up. Then he pointed the gun at the other party and came to the wall and lay on the wall. Take off your clothes. Zijin looked back in surprise after hearing, Ah. Su Shu raised the gun. Don't talk nonsense, take it off quickly. He Zijin had no choice but to quickly take off all his clothes. Finally, he took out his cell phone and started taking photos. Turn around and take photos of the front. After he Zijin turned around and took photos of the front, Su Shu stopped. Okay, I'll get some ketchup later, you take some photos for me, and you take it back to Huangjiang and tell him that I have been killed by you. By the way, I will blackmail him for another 100,000 yuan. If he doesn't give it, I will report him. Your 50,000 yuan is still yours, and the 100,000 yuan is mine. Don't even think about running away. No matter where you run to, I can use my supernatural power to pull you back. In fact, Su Shu was just trying to scare the other party. As for the specific range of his supernatural power, Su Shu didn't know, and he had never experimented with it. He Zijin was obviously scared and nodded in agreement. Then the two went to buy ketchup and smeared it on Su Shu's head. After he Zijin took photos, he let the other party go. On the way home, Su Shu found a faucet to wash the ketchup on his head, and then went home to eat. In the middle of the night, Su Shu quietly got up and came to the place agreed with He Zijin. The other party was carrying a big box, and his eyes were full of vigilance when he looked at Su Shu, and then he threw the box directly in front of Su Shu. Su Shu picked it up, shook it, and when he felt it was about right, he waved his hand. Let's go quickly. If Huangjiang finds out tomorrow, it will be difficult for you to leave. Huangjiang has a prominent family background. If he finds out that He Zijin is blackmailing him, it will be very easy for him to find a superpower to kill He Zijin with his status. When he returned home, Su Shu quickly opened the box and looked at the neatly stacked banknotes inside, and he was very satisfied. 100,000, you can buy 100 black iron beast crystal cores. Wait, only 100, doesn't that mean it's only enough to improve the quality of one superpower? No, it's still too little. At this time, Su Shu really felt how much money superpowers burn. 100,000, which used to be a huge sum of money for him, now seems so insignificant. In fact, it was Su Shu who needed to improve the quality of his ability, so the consumption was very large, but others did not need it. 100 black iron beast crystal cores were enough for ordinary psychics to upgrade to the bronze level. However, Su Shu thought of another problem, that is, he had dual abilities, so the beast crystal cores required for the upgrade were also twice that of a single system psychic. Thinking of this, Su Shu suddenly lost interest in the 100,000 yuan in front of him, and kicked it aside directly. What use do I have for you? The next morning, Su Shu just entered the school gate and met Huangjiang. The other party looked like he saw a ghost when he saw Su Shu, pointing at Su Shu and saying, you, for a long time without saying a word. Su Shu was too lazy to pay attention to him and left directly. As for revenge, Su Shu felt that the time was not ripe yet. It was around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and Su Shu, who had been staring at Huangjiang, finally saw that he went to the toilet, so he hurriedly followed him. After waiting for a while at the door of the toilet, Su Shu directly threw a weak and powerless Huangjiang inside. Huangjiang, who was enjoying himself in the toilet, suddenly moaned subconsciously, ah. Then he suddenly realized something, his eyes suddenly widened, no. Then Huangjiang suddenly disappeared and appeared directly outside the toilet, in Su Shu's arms, and their eyes met. Huangjiang's face flushed. Su Shu, don't do this, let me go back. Su Shu ignored him, his face suddenly became twisted and crazy, and he took out a dagger from his arms. Did you send someone to kill me last night? I'll stab you to death. Ah, I'm going to kill you. Su Shu was about to stab Huangjiang with the dagger in his hand, like a madman. The sound of drip 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 instantly reached the ears of the two. Huangjiang was frightened to death, and a hot stream flowed out from his crotch, dripping onto the ground and making a sound. Su Shu, it's not me. It's not me. Su Shu's knife was directly against Huangjiang's neck, and he said frantically, you still don't admit it, right? The other party told me. If you don't admit it, I will kill you. Huangjiang seemed to have grabbed a life-saving straw after hearing this, and hurriedly said, I sent it, don't kill me, I admit it, I admit it. After speaking, Huangjiang saw Su Shu's face suddenly return to calm, and then smiled slightly. don't be afraid, how could Uncle bear to kill you? Uncle loves you so much. As he said, Su Shu threw Huang Zhang directly to the ground, and the other party was immediately stained with the liquid on the ground. Su Shu looked at Huang Zhang, and his other hand moved the blade of the dagger. Then Huang Zhang found that the blade of the dagger was actually soft, and it was constantly twisted and deformed under Su Shu's movement. Seeing the other person's expression, Su Shu couldn't help laughing. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that our great master Huang would be scared to death by a rubber toy. As he said that, Su Shu took out his mobile phone and took a lot of photos of Huang Zhang. Huang Zhang looked up at Su Shu with a gloomy face, feeling unprecedented humiliation in his heart. At this time, the get out of class was over, and the students who came to the toilet also noticed this sight and walked over. Huang Zhang quickly got up and wanted to run back to the toilet. As a result, Su Shu immediately threw a weak hand to the other party and pulled him back and threw him on the ground. At this time, other students also gathered around. Looking at Huang Zhang, who was in such a mess on the ground, they also laughed at him and kept taking pictures. Huang Zhang was usually domineering in school, and many of his classmates had been bullied by him, so they complained deeply about him, so they didn't miss this opportunity. Su Shu spoke at the right time. Everyone has seen that this is what happens if you don't pay for going to the toilet. As the toilet director personally appointed by the principal, I will definitely fulfill my obligations. From today onwards, everyone will pay voluntarily. If I find out that I haven't paid, then Huang Zhang will be his fate. Hearing Su Shu mention him, Huang Zhang unconsciously covered his lower body without pants. As more and more students gathered around, the principal Wang Wuchen was finally alerted. He rushed over soon. Looking at the weak and helpless Huang Zhang, Wang Wuchen couldn't bear it. He turned to look at Su Shu angrily. How can you treat your classmates like this? Follow me to the office and I will notify your parents. Come over. Originally, I was still trying to find a way out for you, but you let me down like this. You will never get this kind of character again. I think Luo An's unusual height is not suitable for you. After hearing this, Su Shu's face froze, and he felt a little uncomfortable. He silently followed Wang Wuchen to the principal's office. After entering the office, Su Shu sat down on the chair silently without saying a word. At this moment, Su Shu seemed to have lost his former glory. Wang Wuchen sat down behind his desk. The fights between classmates should not be too excessive. Every classmate will be the main force in the future to fight against alien beasts and protect weak humans, and maybe a future hero. We at Luo and Igao are also ranked high in the country. Even if the students who study here are not ideal in awakening their powers, they will definitely be able to pass the cultural classes. In the future, even if they cannot rush to the front line, they can still do some logistics work. No big problem. As a principal, I don't want to give up on every student. I can only tell you that there are no useless people with special abilities, only people who are willing to fall. Every ability has its own shining point and unique use. The same is true for your ability. This is why I want to find a way for you. But the premise of everything is that human nature is not bad. I don't want to cultivate a powerful superpower who can target his own people in the future. After speaking, Wang Wuchen stared at Su Shu, waiting for him to speak. However, Su Shu lowered his head and remained silent for a long time. Then he silently took out his cell phone, put it on the table, and played the recording. I said, it's Huang Zhang, he asked me to kill you. How much did he give you to kill me? 50,000. Then came Huang Zhang's voice. I sent him, don't kill me, I admit it. Wang Wuchen listened blankly and froze on the spot. At this time, Su Shu suddenly stood up, picked up his mobile phone, and sighed, Principal, please don't find a way out for me. I am a person with a very bad nature, and I don't deserve the principal to worry about me. With that said, Su Shu turned around and walked outside. Only then did Wang Wuchen react and quickly grabbed Su Shu. Goodbye, classmate Su Shu. Let's sit down and talk. Su Shu. No, a student with a very bad nature, don't deserve to talk to the principal. Wang Wuchen pushed Su Shu directly onto the stool, his face suddenly serious. It's almost done. Su Shu just sat down. Then Wang Wuchen suddenly slapped the table. That's too much. How dare you assassinate your classmates? Su Shu. Principal, the atmosphere has passed. It's not right to slap the table now. Shut up. Wang Wuchen suddenly turned his head and yelled at Su Shu. Do you know that internal fighting is the most intolerable thing in China? Do you know why there are no fighting competitions between superpowers in China? If you have this ability, use it to deal with strange beasts. How can you use it to deal with your own kind? You go back to class first, and I will arrange your affairs. As for those who are behind the scenes, I won't let anyone go. Seeing that the principal seemed very angry, Su Shu didn't dare to touch the bad luck, so he quickly got up and left. After returning home from school in the afternoon, Su Shu heard all kinds of news and felt Wang Wuchen's anger from it. First of all, Huang Zhong was caught and his academic career was over. Then He Zijin was captured and was waiting to be dealt with. In the end, the entire Huang family was implicated, and their property was thoroughly investigated, almost causing their downfall. Su Shu's first thought after hearing the news was to spend the 100,000 yuan quickly. As long as you spend it, even if it is eventually found on yourself, the money will be gone by then, and the worst thing you can do is use a sewing machine to pay off the debt. Yes, Su Shu would rather step on the sewing machine than give up the 100,000. He did it as soon as he thought of it without any delay. After seeing his parents almost asleep at night, Su Shu quietly went out with the box. This money definitely couldn't be spent through formal channels and had to go to the black market, so before going out, Su Shu dressed up specially and covered his face with black underwear. In the end, I still felt that it was not safe, so I put a big black hat on my head. The black market is a tacitly accepted market, and basically every city has one. After all, because of the superpowers, there are many things that people are unwilling to show their faces to sell, and their identities cannot be hidden through formal channels. Over time, a black market emerged, a market where identities could be concealed. Entering the market, there were constant shouts of selling. Legendary beast cubs can extract beast powers, don't miss it if you pass by. Power book, you can learn new powers after watching it. Black Iron Beast King Crystal Core. 1 million. Su Shu sneered at these hawking voices. Because everyone hid their identities, they were all unscrupulous. After all, as long as they cheated one, they would earn one, and they couldn't be held accountable even if they wanted to. Especially the legendary beast cubs, that was simply nonsense. You should know that there may not be a legendary beast in a beast gate, let alone its cubs. Under the same level, beasts are also divided according to their own strength. Divided into ordinary, elite, leader, overlord, beast king, beast emperor, legend. So far, there are only 4 or 5 beast gates with records of legendary beasts, which can be counted on one hand. He walked along the empty road in the middle of the stalls to a shop. The shop was hung with a sign of adult products, flashing colorful lights. If you don't look at the content on the sign, everyone would think this is a barber shop. Su Shu didn't hesitate and walked in directly. There were indeed many such items placed inside. There were several service staff wearing masks standing by the counter. When they saw Su Shu come in, they didn't say anything and just stared at him. Su Shu knew the rules here, so he walked over and put the box on the counter. 100 black iron beast crystal cores. No one spoke, and a waiter took Su Shu's box and opened it and counted it. After a while, he turned around and nodded to the person next to him. Then the man took out a small box and put it on the counter and pushed it over. Su Shu took it, opened it and counted it roughly. After he turned around and went out, he was right. As a result, a group of people surrounded him. Brother, do you want to exchange the Lord-level Beast Crystal Core? Space Power Kuo Ben, 10 Black Iron Beast Crystal Cores. Lord Cub, 50 Black Iron Crystal Cores. The store behind Su Shu is the core of the entire black market and the most authentic trading place in the entire black market. All customers who enter and come out have basically traded before, so they have become the favorites of the scammers outside. Su Shu held the suitcase in front of him and said, I have 100 black iron crystal cores here, and I want to exchange them for 9 black iron elite crystal cores. If you have any, you can exchange them. But I have to make it clear first, you have to bring the real ones. I can tell the fake ones at a glance. The energy contained in the elite crystal core is 10 times that of the ordinary ones, so one is worth 10, and of course no one would exchange them normally. However, Su Shu exchanged 10 for 9, and the other party could at least make a few ordinary ones after reselling them. This is indeed a good deal. Then, the people below began to discuss. After all, not everyone can take out 9 elite crystal cores. Finally, after discussion, the people below came together, and each of them offered 3 to Su Shu. After they discussed it, Su Shu opened the box in front of everyone, and then counted the crystal cores inside in front of everyone, and then closed the box again. Okay, one hand pays the money, and the other hand delivers the goods. After the other party saw that there was no problem, one person brought all the crystal cores to trade with Su Shu. The moment Su Shu took the crystal core from the other party, he dropped the box and ran away, disappearing directly into the crowd. The other party just thought that Su Shu was afraid of being robbed, so he didn't doubt anything and walked back with the box. The 3 people looked at the box, rubbed their hands, and prepared to divide the crystal core. They earned 10 more crystal cores, and each person could get at least 3, which was 3,000 yuan, and they could sleep well tonight. Then, under the onlookers, one of them opened the box. Suddenly, the empty box was displayed in front of everyone, and the 3 people immediately realized that they had been fooled. God, chase him. Get out. Ah! He quickly got up and wanted to chase him, but Su Shu had disappeared in the crowd long ago, and there was no way to chase him. Suddenly, the 3 people were frustrated. They didn't expect that they had cheated people for so long, but this time they were actually overturned in the gutter and were tricked by others. At this time, Su Shu was hiding in a dark and secluded corner, changing clothes while laughing, and his smile could not be stopped for a long time. Just now, at the moment of trading with the other party, he directly absorbed all the crystal cores in the box to improve his superpowers. This is something the other party could never have thought of, because unless it is a space storage superpower, no one can take all the crystal cores away from the box quietly. As for absorption and improvement, that is even more impossible. Even if a diamond-level superpower comes, it is impossible to absorb so many crystal cores in such a short time. It is also because of these reasons that the other party has no doubts and lets Su Shu exploit the loophole. At this time, Su Shu's second superpower has already changed a lot. Weakness. Quality. D. Causes 60 seconds of weakness to the target, and the target will be weak all over during the process, unable to attack, unable to use superpowers, and the use distance is doubled. The current quality improvement requires 1,000 bronze beast crystal cores. The weakness time is increased by 3 times, and the distance is increased by 1 time. Although Su Shu does not know what the previous range is, as long as it can be improved, who cares how much? However, looking at the improvement conditions behind, Su Shu still feels a headache. 1,000 bronze beast crystal cores. Where can I find so many? It took Su Shu a lot of effort to get the 100 black iron crystal cores used for the upgrade. But what comforted Su Shu was that he also swapped 9 black iron elite crystal cores. After changing his clothes, Su Shu took out the 9 crystal cores and looked at them happily while walking. But soon Su Shu found something wrong and tried to absorb them. Fake. Then Su Shu hurriedly tried the others and found that only 3 were real. A bunch of liars, only 3 of the 9 are real, don't you feel guilty? Su Shu's mood suddenly became bad and he returned home depressed. Fortunately, there were 3 real ones. Su Shu did not sleep at night and started to absorb them. Other students from well-off families had their families buy crystal cores for them to absorb and upgrade. Su Shu only had crystal cores now, so his progress was relatively slow. I heard that the absorption speed of high-quality crystal cores is much faster than that of ordinary ones, but Su Shu has never absorbed ordinary ones, so there is no specific comparison, and he doesn't think it is much faster. After one night, he only absorbed 1/5 of the energy of a crystal core. In the morning, Su Shu could clearly feel the filling of his body. If he could only release 5 or 6 times before, he could release at least 6 or 7 times now. However, the quality of weakness has been upgraded to a higher level. It is unknown whether it will increase the consumption of supernatural powers. The specific situation will have to wait until the experiment. After getting up and washing, Su Shu went directly to school. As soon as he entered the classroom and sat down, his deskmate Sang Ping came up and asked Su Shu mysteriously, "Brother Shu, do you know how much our toilet business earned yesterday?" Su Shu was puzzled. How much? Yesterday, He left in a hurry after school, so he did not go to the toilet to check, but he asked Sang Ping to rewrite the notice and post it. Sang Ping raised one hand and stretched out 3 fingers, 30,000 yuan. What? Su Shu stood up from his seat in shock. Sang Ping smiled. Brother Shu, didn't expect it. I didn't expect it at the time. 30,000 yuan. Su Shu went through a lot of trouble to blackmail the black market last night, and it was only 30,000 yuan. I didn't expect that the toilet charge yesterday reached 30,000 yuan, which was really a surprise. After recovering from his shock, Su Shu couldn't help but pat Sang Ping's shoulder. Okay, Sang Ping, good job. Sang Ping was constantly crouched down by Su Shu's huge force, and couldn't help but frowning and aggrieved. Brother Shu, it hurts. Su Shu froze after hearing this, and then patted him harder a few times. You have to bear the pain. Who told you to take away my 6,000 yuan? That's 6 black iron crystal cores. Sang Ping felt even more aggrieved after hearing this, and could only bear it. After all, it was for the sake of making money, it was not shameful, and it was okay to suffer a little. Then the two began their first summary. The main reason why they collected so much yesterday was that Huangzhong was taken out of the toilet by Su Shu and taught a lesson. After all, no one wants to have the same experience with him in the future. Chapter 11. Luoan Yigao is the only high school for special abilities in Luoan City. There are more than 10,000 people in the school, and each person can go to the toilet once a day, which is also 50,000 yuan. But after doing this calculation, the two of them suddenly felt something was wrong. Su Shu, Sang Ping, I don't believe that some people don't go to the toilet for a whole day. It seems that some people are just taking chances and don't want to pay for it. Brother Shu, why don't we get another person to come out and scare the monkeys, and make them all pay up obediently? After hearing this, Su Shu immediately thought of the scene where he was taught a lesson by the principal yesterday, and immediately shook his head. Forget it. That's too much. In fact, after all, Su Shu said, he couldn't do that kind of thing if he was really asked to do it. As for Huangzhong, he asked for it. He had already sent people to kill Su Shu. How could Su Shu care about anything too much? Not excessive. In the end, the two simply stopped thinking about it. They didn't have to guard it anyway, so they could collect as much as they could every day. Just after the first class, Li Yafei suddenly appeared at the door of Su Shu's classroom, accompanied by a tall and thick student. After seeing Su Shu sitting in the classroom from a distance, Li Yafei walked straight to Su Shu. Despicable villain, what did you do to Huangzhong? Why was he expelled? Tell me, are you the principal's illegitimate son? Why does he still favor you even though you have done such an outrageous thing? After hearing this, Su Shu raised his head and said, Fair, who do you think your uncle is? My uncle, I have a clean family, and I will definitely not be an illegitimate child. When Li Yafei heard Su Shu calling himself uncle, he was so angry that he gritted his teeth and said, Su Shu, please be careful what you say. Whose uncle are you? Who is your fair? Su Shu spread his hands. Didn't you just scream? You. Li Yafei was so angry that she was speechless. Finally, he suddenly realized that he had been led astray by Su Shu and said quickly, Don't be so messy. Tell me, why was Huangzhong expelled after being tortured by you? Did you do it together with your background? Su Shu rolled his eyes. It's really a meeting of eunuchs, nonsense. I, Su Shu, have been above board all my life. How could I do such a thing? The reason why Huangzhong was expelled was not because of himself. After hearing this, Li Yafei smiled disdainfully. You shameless person, you have the nerve to talk about being above board. Su Shu didn't want to reveal that Huangzhong sent people to kill him, otherwise the impact would be too great, so of course he wouldn't tell Li Yafei. So he didn't say much and said directly, believe it or not. At this time, the tall and thick young man next to Li Yafei came forward. Su Shu, right. I am Huangzhong's cousin, Huang Xiaochuan. Su Shu nodded. It's me, uncle. Is there something wrong with the eldest nephew? After hearing this, Huang Xiaochuan's face froze, and then his eyes flashed with anger. You are such a yellow-tongued kid, you really think that no one in Luo and Yigao can do anything to you, right? I know a little bit about Huangzhong, but I won't anger the entire Huang family. I advise you to stop the forces behind you as soon as possible, otherwise the entire Huang family will be destroyed and you won't be able to live well. After hearing this, Su Shu directly raised his finger and pointed at Huang Xiaochuan. I want to sue the teacher and you for slander. Huang Xiaochuan. Ha, incompetent people will only complain to the teacher when something happens. If you have the ability, you can find a solution on your own. Su Shu nodded. Okay. This is what you said. Huang Xiaochuan. I said so. As a result, just after the third period of class, Huang Xiaochuan, who was using the toilet, suddenly appeared outside and lay straight on the ground for a minute. Other students gathered around, pointing and taking pictures. When Huang Xiaochuan saw this, he wanted to die and wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl in. At this time, Su Shu was wiping the liquid on his pants with paper in the toilet. There was no way. Huang Xiaochuan was urinating this time, and he was pulled into Su Shu's arms at the critical moment, so there would definitely be some splashing. But Su Shu didn't care. He wanted Huang Xiaochuan not to dare to use the toilet at school in the future. In the morning, he and Sang Ping were worried that there were not enough people to pay, and they were thinking of finding someone to scare the monkeys. As a result, Huang Xiaochuan came to his door immediately. There was no reason for Su Shu to let it go. Today is destined to be a lifelong nightmare for him, because he was pulled out again when he went to the toilet in the afternoon. At this time, he was lying on the ground, his face was ashen, and he thought of running under the sunset, which was his lost youth. Su Shu, you and I are irreconcilable. After school in the afternoon, Su Shu had just walked out of the school gate when he was suddenly blocked by a group of people. Your name is Su Shu. The leader was a thick, bald man with a face full of flesh. Su Shu raised his head slightly. It's me, uncle. Who the hell do you call yourself uncle? After hearing this, the bald man tried hard and stepped forward to grab Su Shu's collar. As a result, he suddenly disappeared and then appeared in Su Shu's arms, their eyes facing each other, which was incredible. You, let me go. It took a long time for the bald man to react and quickly asked Su Shu to let him go. Su Shu didn't refuse and threw it directly to the ground. Beat him to death. The bald man lying on the ground suddenly shouted viciously. After hearing this, a group of younger brothers rushed towards Su Shu. As a result, they were all hugged by Su Shu and fell to the ground. It wasn't until everyone was knocked down that Su Shu clapped his hands. This is the first time, and next time, I will beat you to death. A group of people were lying on the ground, unable to move, looking at the sky and doubting their lives. This supernatural power is really weird and makes people desperate. After Su Shu left, a person lying on the ground suddenly said, "Do you think that boy is handsome? Beat him." The bald man finally recovered at this time, and together with others, he beat the person who spoke. Just after returning home, Su Shu received a strange call. Another scam call. Su Shu did not hang up, but answered directly. Hello, the number you dialed is turned off. Please call again. Sao Rui, Dananbo, Yuako, lead the meaning. The other end of the phone was obviously stunned, and then suddenly said, Student Su Shu, this is the principal. Your plastic English is obviously not good. You need to work on your cultural courses. Su Shu was stunned. Principal, why is your phone marked as a scam call? Let me see. 134 people are marked. How is it possible? The unbelievable voice of Principal Wang Wuchen came from the other end of the phone. Su Shu, if you don't believe me, you can try calling other phones. Wang Wuchen, let's talk about this later. Tomorrow morning, gather at the Luoan Mountains. This is your first mission, so you must do it well. Su Shu was obviously stunned. Mission? What mission? Tomorrow is Saturday. I need to rest, Principal. Wang Wuchen, have a rest, sister. I have worked so hard to win 4 qualifier spots for you. Do you know that you may be the first E-class superpower in history to become a qualifier? Such a great opportunity is in front of you, and you actually want to talk to me about taking a break. Su Shu's eyes widened after hearing this. Preliminary election. Principal, are you kidding me? Su Shu knew best what the preliminaries were. They were selected from various colleges and universities in the early stage to run errands for the regular supernatural army. Don't underestimate this errand boy. This is a kind of advance experience in itself. Not only can you get a salary, but you can also practice in advance and become familiar with fighting against alien beasts. At the same time, it is also preparation for joining the supernatural army in the future. You must know that those who can become qualifiers must have at least S-level talents with special abilities. And Wang Wuchen actually gave such a precious spot to Su Shu, who has E-level powers. At this time, Su Shu was sure that the principal was his true love. Wang Wuchen, I'm not kidding you. Tomorrow is your first mission, and it is also a test. If you succeed, you will officially become a pre-selector. No matter what you do in the future, having this status will be very convenient. Su Shu, Principal, you are so kind. A good person is born with quadruplets. Wang Wuchen, I gave birth to your sister, so prepare quickly. I may have to go for 2 days this time. I'm sorry. The call was then cut off. After Wang Wuchen, who was at home at this time, hung up the phone, he looked at his phone and thought of what Su Shu said about his phone being marked, and quickly called out, "Wife." After experimenting with his wife's cell phone, Wang Wuchen discovered that he had been deceived by Su Shu. His phone only had a fraud mark. Then Wang Wuchen quickly called the company to see who had tagged him. It didn't take long for the phone number to be sent over. As soon as he saw the number, Wang Wuchen was furious. Su Shu. Early the next morning, Su Shu, who had absorbed the crystal core all night, got up, washed up, and set out carrying the bag he packed last night. Shu, where are you going? Seeing Su Shu carrying a bag, Su's mother asked curiously. Su Shu, Mom, I'm going to take part in the preliminaries assessment task. Before Su's mother could speak, Su Shu had already walked out. Su's mother was obviously stunned. At this time, Su Yixin also came over. The two looked at each other and were both stunned. When did Xiaoshu learn to lie? Su Yixin said angrily. When did the words in his mouth pass by? Mother Su nodded. Yes. Taking the bus all the way to the designated location, Su Shu saw 3 people from a distance, and was stunned. Why was she here too? Li Yafei over there opened her mouth unconsciously when she saw Su Shu. She pointed at Su Shu and said, you, and was speechless for a long time. Su Shu raised his eyebrows. What? You don't recognize me, uncle? Li Yafei suddenly realized. I told you that you were the principal's illegitimate son, and it turned out to be true. How could an E-level superpower be allowed to join the preliminaries? As soon as these words came out, the other 2 people immediately cast surprised looks at Su Shu. Especially the girl among them looked at Su Shu with interest. Su Shu waved his hand. No, I joined based on my talent and strength. Li Yafei didn't believe it. What kind of talent and strength can you, an E-level superpower, have? Su Shu ignored it and looked at the other 2 people. Let's introduce each other. We are familiar with each other. My name is Su Shu, Su Shu's Su, Su Shu's tree. The E-level power has the effect of pulling the opponent into his arms, weakening the opponent, and making the opponent unable to use the power. Li Yafei curled her lips after hearing this, having a deep understanding of its powers. The other 2 people were also surprised by this weird power of the lowest level. Then the woman introduced herself. Wang Yushan, SS level superpower, Pear Blossom Gun, the effect is very lethal. Then the strange boy next to him came. Chunsheng, SS level superpower, Earth Armor, main defense. Finally, it's Li Yafei. Li Yafei has 2 SS level abilities. One is a water dragon, which can heal injuries and restore abilities. The second ability is Ice and Snow, which can instantly freeze a 5-mile range and continuously weaken the enemy. I am better at assisting. Quote. Su Shu nodded. Okay, the 4 of us will be teammates from now on. I am a little older, so everyone can call me uncle from now on. Li Yafei. Go away, whose uncle are you? Chunsheng finally saw Su Shu's true face at this time and rolled his eyes. We all woke up at the same time and are about the same age. Why should I call you uncle? I think otherwise, you 3 should call me Hao as dad. Wang Yushan was speechless. Why did he feel like he was being dishonest again? Su Shu was stunned after hearing this. There was actually someone more ruthless than him. He quickly stepped forward and hooked Chunsheng's shoulders. Chunsheng, right. From your name, did you think you were born in spring? I was born in spring too. What month are you born in? After hearing this, Chunsheng shook his head directly. No, my father is the village chief, and I am the village chief's son, so I am called village student. Su Shu opened his mouth wide. Is it this village? The village student nodded. Well, I'm very proud. Su Shu. Then I am the principal's illegitimate son, should I be called Changsheng? Murakuo. Wang Yushan. Li Yafei. At this time, Wang Yushan suddenly turned around and asked curiously, are you really the principal's illegitimate son? Su Shu shook his head and sighed. If only I could just ask him to get the money for me, then I wouldn't have to work so hard. You will just have to do nothing every day, eat and wait for death. What's the difference between this and a dream coming true? Wang Yushan couldn't help laughing after hearing this. Kunsheng said, if I were the principal, I would definitely shoot you against the wall to prevent you from causing trouble when you were born. Su Shu's face straightened when he heard this. Kunsheng classmate, you don't know me well enough to say this. If you are willing to spend time to understand me, you will find that you have spent some time. Kunsheng. Li Yafei. I see that he will want to beat you to death. While they were talking, a jeep drove over from a distance and stopped steadily in front of them. Afterwards, a man in military uniform got off the car, followed by 2 male guards. Hello, my name is Zhao Shilin, you can call me Commander Zhao from now on. Although you probably already know the benefits of the pre-selection, I still want to explain it to you clearly. First of all, this mission is a selection and an assessment. If you pass, you can officially become a pre-selection. After becoming a pre-selection, you will receive special tasks regularly and need you to perform them. Of course, there is definitely a salary, 5,000 yuan per month, and you will also have the authority to enter the gates of various beasts. If there is anything, you can report it and the higher-ups will help you handle it. Also, after becoming a pre-selection, you will be given priority in the future recruitment of the supernatural army. Well, this is the approximate responsibilities and benefits of the pre-selection. In fact, Su Shu and the others also know a lot of hidden benefits, such as key supernatural universities will have subjective bonus points for pre-selection, and it will be very convenient to find a job or travel in the future. After Zhao Shilin saw that several people were silent, he continued to speak. Tell me about the content of this assessment task. A long time ago, we detected special power fluctuations in the Luoan Mountains, and recently, this fluctuation has become more and more obvious. We suspect that a gate of alien beasts is about to open here. Your task this time is very simple. Find the source of the fluctuations, determine if it is the gate of alien beasts that is about to open, and then stay there and wait for us to pass. After hearing this, the 4 people quickly replied loudly, I promise to complete the task. Zhao Shilin nodded. Let's go. Yes, the 4 of them answered, then turned around and left at the same time, carrying their bags. After Zhao Shilin watched several people disappear into the mountains and forests, he got into the jeep, started the car, and drove directly into the distance. Su Shu and the others were very excited at first. After all, this was also a mountain climb. However, after climbing for 2 hours, the sound of heavy breathing filled the air among several people. Su Shu was also very tired, so he turned around and asked the relatively calm village student, how about we play a game? The village student also asked, what game? Su Shu. Rock, paper, scissors, whoever loses carries the other person and walks 100 meters. The village student nodded directly without thinking, okay. Then the 2 stopped and prepared to start. As the 2 looked at each other, their eyes kept rolling. Su Shu couldn't help but say, don't roll your eyes around. Are you trying to play a trick? Murakuo. You are still the same. You have the nerve to tell me. Okay, let's get started. Rock, paper, scissors. The 2 punched at the same time, and then turned into paper at the same time when they fell, and then Su Shu changed again and turned into scissors. Not to be outdone, the village students turned into stone. At the last moment of falling, Su Shu turned into cloth and Kun Sheng turned into stone. Su Shu was pleasantly surprised and ran over and jumped on the village student's back. Drive. The village student's face was ugly. Driving your sister. You're so shameless, you keep changing when you punch. Su Shu lay on his back and hugged him tightly. You have the nerve to tell me you haven't changed. The village student was speechless and could only carry Su Shu on his back and continue walking. Before they knew it, the group of people had been walking for more than an hour. Snort, snore, snore. Su Shu lay on the village student's back and slept soundly. His snoring shook the leaves in the forest, and his saliva drooled all over the village student's back. Li Yafei looked at the panting village student and couldn't help but said, "You have always lost, why do you still come with him?" "Morale. I don't think I can win next time, and I've carried him so many times, so I have to let him carry me once." Li Yafei, you have a typical gambler's mentality. Then why don't you think about it? Even if you win once, you have lost so many times. In the end, you still lose. The village student just refused to listen and said stubbornly, "No, I must make him carry me on his back once." Li Yafei was speechless. It seemed that he couldn't persuade him anymore, so he simply stopped trying. At the same time, she couldn't help but murmur in her heart, it seemed that no one could find anything good from Su Shu. Wang Yushan, on the other hand, kept looking at Su Shu on the village student's back with a smile, his eyes full of curiosity. After walking not far, the village student suddenly put Su Shu down. Su Shu, who was already sleeping, lost his balance and fell directly to the ground. "What's wrong? Have you found it?" Su Shu asked drowsily after waking up. "I found your sister. You were sleeping all the time and didn't care about anything. How could you possibly find her?" Murakuo said angrily. Su Shu was confused. Li Yafei doesn't have double powers. He is more sensitive to fluctuations in powers. He should have found them after so long. Are you lazy? The three of them were speechless after hearing this. Who is being lazy? The village student directly pulled Su Shu up. "The 100 meters are here, come again." Su Shu ignored him and shook his head. "I won't come. I've had enough rest. I'll go on my own." After hearing this, the village student's face suddenly turned the color of pig liver. "Come on, come on." "No, you have to come. I haven't won yet." Su Shu shook his head. "I'm afraid you won't be able to carry it anymore and will die from exhaustion on the mountain. Then I won't be able to explain to Chief Zhao." Murakami was going crazy, but he soon calmed down, rolled his eyes and said, "I have a black iron elite crystal core here. If you win, I will give it to you. If you lose, you will take it. How about me?" Su Shu just raised his head and glanced, and then said without interest, "Fake." The village student was surprised. "Fake? How is it possible? I just bought this last night." Su Shu didn't even raise his eyelids. "You'll know if you try to absorb it." The village student suddenly became startled and confused, and tried to absorb it. Sure enough, he couldn't absorb it at all, and then he became even crazier. "Ah, you big liar, you actually lied to me with a fake one." Su Shu couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. "You didn't know? I thought you were deceiving me with a fake one." "Morale. I know shit, I bought it last night." Su Shu, black market. The village student was stunned. "How do you know?" Su Shu, "I swindled 9 pills from those scammers last night, and 6 of them turned out to be fake. Otherwise, how could I tell at a glance that you were fake?" The village student was stunned after hearing this. He cheated 9 pills from the liar. Is this serious? Even Li Yafei and Wang Yushan next to them couldn't help turning their heads to look at Su Shu after hearing this. You should know that the scammers in the black market are notorious. Few people can get good things from them. As a result, Su Shu cheated 9 elite crystal cores from them. This is really something. Su Shu finally recovered some spirit at this time. He stood up and stretched, looking at the village student with interest. "Take out the real one, we will come again." The village student shook his head hurriedly. No. The village student is now sober. Facing someone like Su Shu, he can't win. Su Shu was immediately disappointed and cursed the scammers in the black market again in his heart. If they hadn't sold fake crystal cores to the village student, he wouldn't have missed an elite crystal core. As for losing, Su Shu has never lost in rock paper scissors since he was a child. Then Su Shu turned his head and looked at Li Yafei. "Did you sense the fluctuation of superpowers?" "Which direction?" In fact, Su Shu did sense it, but he didn't want to expose his dual superpowers, not because he was afraid of others' jealousy or anything, but purely because he was afraid of being laughed at by others. After all, he can be said to be the first person in the world with dual E-level superpowers. Li Yafei raised his hand and pointed in a direction. "I feel it's over there." Then, Li Yafei led Su Shu and the other two to that direction. After walking for another hour, Li Yafei stopped on a piece of grass and looked up at the sky. It's up there, the supernatural power fluctuations are obvious. I can feel a violent supernatural power squeezing out crazily. The four looked up, the sky was blue, nothing could be seen. Only Su Shu and Li Yafei could clearly sense the violent energy fluctuations in the sky. In that space, there was a terrifying energy squeezing outward, and it could explode at any time. Li Yafei and the other two immediately prepared to set up a tent below. Su Shu did not move, and looked at them speechlessly. The village student also noticed that Su Shu did not move, so he subconsciously asked, Su Shu, why don't you move? Su Shu looked up at the sky. What do you think, if the door of the strange beasts above suddenly opens, and then the strange beasts that come out can shit on our heads? The three were stunned after hearing this, and then stopped moving. They all had a feeling of extreme fear. Yes, if the door of the strange beasts opens, countless strange beasts swarm out, can they still escape? Li Yafei and the other two were frightened and asked Su Shu, where should we set up camp? Su Shu pointed to a distant hill, let's go there. It's far from here and high. We can see this side clearly. It will be convenient to escape when the time comes. Li Yafei and the other two definitely had no objection, and then walked towards the hill Su Shu pointed to. Although it didn't look very far, it took them an hour to get there. Then they set up their tents. Su Shu looked at Li Yafei and said, do you feel that this beast gate is about to open at any time? Li Yafei nodded seriously, the feeling is very strong. Su Shu, notify Chief Zhao and ask him to send someone over quickly, otherwise we can't handle it. You must know that the outbreak of each beast gate is a terrible disaster, and countless beasts will surge out like a tide. Just like the outbreak of the Beast Gate in Honghai City. Although this place is far from the center of Luoan City, if it is not suppressed in the first time, it will definitely affect Luoan City. Li Yafei nodded quickly, called Zhao Shilin, and reported the specific location. The other party also said that someone would be sent over immediately. Then, the four began a long wait. Until the evening, there was still no movement over there. The four were really sleepy, but they didn't dare to sleep. Su Shu suddenly said, why don't we take turns sleeping? One person is responsible for guarding, and the others go to sleep, and change when they are almost asleep. The other three were also very sleepy and nodded one after another. Then Su Shu got up directly. The village student is the first, and the others go to sleep. After that, Su Shu went straight into the tent. Li Yafei and Wang Yushan didn't hesitate and went into their respective tents. The village student sat there a little at a loss, he wanted to say that he hadn't agreed yet. At night, in a daze, Su Shu heard someone calling him, Su Shu, it's your turn. Don't make trouble. Su Shu turned over directly, making the village student a little at a loss. But he was so sleepy that he called several more times, but there was still no response. In the end, he had no choice but to lie down next to Su Shu's ear. Su Shu. The huge sound directly shocked Su Shu to stand up instantly, with a confused look on his face. Kunsheng. It's your turn, I'm going to sleep first. Su Shu could only nod. Okay, go ahead. After a long time, Su Shu finally recovered, then walked out of the tent, sat on the ground and looked at the starry sky. Subconsciously took out his mobile phone to check the time, and then he was dumbfounded. Kunsheng, I only slept for half an hour. That's right, it was only 11 o'clock before Su Shu went to bed, and now the time shown on the mobile phone was only 11:30. Snoring, snoring, snoring. The deafening snoring behind made the indignant Su Shu short of breath. At first, Su Shu thought it was the Kunsheng who made it. Subconsciously turning his head to see, it turned out that it was not coming from Li Yafei's tent, and the whole tent was shaking. Su Shu stood up directly, took out his mobile phone to record the video of the tent vibrating with snoring, and then gently unzipped it a little, put the mobile phone in, and recorded the video of Li Yafei snoring. Humph. If you dare to scold me again in the future, I will post this video to the school forum, so that those licking dogs can have a good look at their goddess's fighter-like snoring. Wait, with the temperament of those licking dogs, will they think that their goddess's snoring is as rhythmic as a DJ and very nice? Su Shu thought it was very likely, so he decided to wait and see. Then, Su Shu went to the village student's tent again, walked in directly and slapped him in the face. The village student who had just fallen asleep sat up subconsciously and looked at Su Shu in a daze. What are you doing? Su Shu, hit you. The village student's morning anger exploded instantly after hearing this, and he rushed up and wrestled with Su Shu. Su Shu, hey, I just saw that your sleep quality is not good, so I told you to get up and go back to sleep. The villager had no intention of stopping. I'll go back to sleep, you fool. Su Shu, how dare you say that to me? I only slept for half an hour, and you woke me up. The villager pulled Su Shu's hair. Change it every half an hour. Su Shu pulled the villager's ear. Who told you to change it every half an hour? There are 4 of us in 8 hours, so we have to change it every 2 hours at least. The villager put his foot on Su Shu's chest. Who told you not to tell me in advance? If you didn't tell me, you would have to change it every half an hour. Su Shu, I'll take your sister's place. No one wants to sleep today. Kunsheng, if you don't want to sleep, then don't sleep. Let's stay up together. During the tearing, Su Shu suddenly pulled the clothes on the chest of the village student, revealing a hint of red. Then Su Shu was stunned, and the village student was also stunned. Then Su Shu quickly got up and directly pulled the village student's clothes open, and saw the red belly band inside. The village student was obviously still in a daze, and quickly pulled the clothes back to cover it. Tisk tisk, village student, where did you steal these belly bands? I didn't expect you to have such a habit. Su Shu said meaningfully. The village student replied unhappily, what do you care? It has nothing to do with you. Then the two finally stopped, and then left the tent together, looking at the stars with 2 pairs of dark circles under their eyes. Su Shu suddenly took out his mobile phone. I'll show you something good. The village student was curious after hearing this, and hurried over. Su Shu clicked on the video, and Li Yafei's huge snoring sound came from the mobile phone immediately. The villager was stunned at first, then said, this is a good thing. Send it to me. Su Shu quickly put away his phone. I'll send you a black iron elite crystal core. The villager, I owe you, and I'll pay you at the end of the year. Su Shu, you at the end of the year. Go to bed. When I have a crystal core, I'll send it to you. The villager stood up instantly. You said it. Then I'm going to bed. The villager had just turned around and hadn't walked far when he heard Su Shu muttering, wait until you fall asleep, I'll wake you up. The villager's face froze, but he was too sleepy now, and he didn't care about that, and went straight into the tent. Sitting under the starry sky, Su Shu seemed a little bored, so he simply took out the crystal core to absorb it. Surprisingly, nothing happened after a night. In the morning, after Su Shu finished absorbing, he couldn't help but take out his mobile phone to open the video of Li Yafei snoring and watched it with interest. What he didn't know was that someone stood behind him at some point. Watching it, Su Shu couldn't help laughing. Ha 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 ha. Is it funny? Suddenly, a gnashing sound came from behind him. Su Shu was startled and turned his head to look, and immediately saw Li Yafei looking at him with murderous eyes. Su Shu quickly put away his mobile phone and asked, what? You don't allow others to play with mobile phones, right? Li Yafei gritted his teeth and uttered word by word, delete it for me. Su Shu shook his head, what? What is it? Li Yafei, you sneak camera maniac, delete my video quickly. Su Shu pretended to be confused, what? What's the matter? I'm going to kill you. Li Yafei went crazy and chased Su Shu. Su Shu ran away immediately. The two of them started chasing each other. At this time, Wang Yushan walked out of the tent, stretched her body, and shook her head helplessly at the two of them. She could see that as long as Su Shu was there, no matter how tense the atmosphere was, the style of the painting would suddenly change. Kunsheng also came out at this time, and he was still confused at this time. He really couldn't believe that Su Shu didn't wake him up halfway, which was too unreasonable. After running for a long time, Li Yafei was exhausted and panting, and kept asking Su Shu to delete the video. Su Shu, if you chase me again, I will post it on the school forum. Li Yafei, I will definitely find a way to kill you in the future. Su Shu was also panting, then I will post it now. In case I die and ignore it in the future. Li Yafei was speechless, but he didn't dare to say it. At this time, Su Shu looked at Kunsheng again. Kunsheng, I recorded you sleeping in a red belly band last night. Remember to buy it back when you have a crystal core. Red belly band. Li Yafei and Wang Yushan turned to look at Kunsheng at the same time, their eyes full of disbelief. They could never imagine that Kunsheng, a big boy who looked like a big man, would have such a perverted hobby. Kunsheng was also stunned, then turned around and chased Su Shu. Who told you to say it? Su Shu ignored his tired body, got up and ran, shouting as he ran, if you chase me again, I will post it online. Kunsheng behind him was so angry that he gritted his teeth. At this time, there was a sudden explosion in the distance. Boom, crack. Then, the terrifying sound of space cracking came. Su Shu and Kunsheng subconsciously stopped and looked into the distance. I saw that above the distant sky, a terrifying black crack suddenly appeared at some point, and the terrifying supernatural power fluctuations that continued to emanate from it made the 4 people present feel palpitations. Su Shu quickly asked Commander Zhao if the people he sent have arrived. Immediately, Li Yafei, who was in a daze, suddenly reacted and quickly took out his mobile phone to call Zhao Shailan. In just a moment, the crack continued to expand, and purple dog-like beasts appeared inside. The number of these beasts was extremely terrifying, and they were rushing out frantically. Wang Yushan, it seems that there is no record of this kind of beast. Su Shu nodded. New form of beast. This is one of the contents learned in liberal arts. Each beast has information records, including ability and weakness records. And these beasts that have appeared now are not recorded in books. As the cracks continued to expand, more and more beasts appeared, and began to surge out like a tide. Village student. Let's go quickly, they are too fast, once they catch up, we will be drowned. At this time, Li Yafei had also made contact and raised his head. Commander Zhao asked us to retreat first, and the people he sent will come to take over here immediately. Wang Yushan. Then let's go. With that, the 3 of them immediately turned back to pack up. As for Su Shu, he looked at the strange beasts that were like a tide, and his eyes flashed. These were all ready-made strange beast crystal cores. Okay, let's go. At this time, Wang Yushan and the other 2 had packed up and walked out, but as soon as they came out, the 3 of them were stunned, looking at Su Shu in the distance. After a long time, the village student spoke. Brother Shu, can I call you brother? Li Yafei. You are worthy of it. Wang Yushan. Why are you so brave? At this time, Su Shu was holding a purple dog-like strange beast in his arms. A man and a beast were standing there staring at each other. Immediately, Su Shu threw the strange beast in his arms directly to Wang Yushan. Kill it quickly. Wang Yushan was scared at first, but she reacted immediately. A white light flashed in her hand, and a long spear covered with ancient patterns appeared. Then she grabbed the long spear and stabbed the strange beast thrown by Su Shu. Puff! The beast didn't even have time to scream before it was shot through the head. Throw the body to the villagers. Su Shu roared, and another beast appeared in his arms and was thrown to Wang Yushan. Without hesitation, Wang Yushan shot it to death again. After killing 4 in a row, there was a rustling sound in the forest below. Su Shu ran with his bag on his back. Here they come, run. The 3 people also reacted immediately and followed Su Shu to the mountain behind. Villager. Su Shu, don't you want the tent? Su Shu. 4 black iron crystal cores, 2 for me and Wang Yushan, more than enough to buy a tent. Villager immediately pointed to the 2 beasts he was carrying. No share for me. Then I'll throw them away. Su Shu. Yes, yes, 1 for each of us, 1 for each of us. Su Shu was actually a little unwilling. There were so many beasts in front of him, but he could only kill 4 of them. It was such a pity. So while running, Su Shu looked back from time to time, his eyes full of reluctance. He ran all the way to the top of the mountain, and a terrifying sound came from the back. Rumble. The 4 people couldn't help but stop and look back, only to see that the crack had opened to the size of a basketball court, and while it was constantly emitting terrifying energy fluctuations, countless beasts were pouring out of it. This is what the Gate of Beasts originally looked like. It is not a door, but a space crack with an infinite sense of oppression. Because it is the gateway to the real world, it is named after the door. At this time, a dog-like beast with 2 heads slowly walked out of the Gate of Beasts. It seemed to have an endless sense of oppression on its body, making the surrounding beasts unconsciously lower their heads. This is the sense of oppression from the elite beasts. Then it walked out with a step that did not recognize any relatives, and it disappeared on the spot as it walked, and only a groan was heard. Mastiff Wu. As the old saying goes, some people disappear as they walk. When Li Yafei and the other three saw the elite beast suddenly disappear, a bad premonition suddenly appeared in their hearts. Immediately, the three people quickly turned to look at Su Shu, and sure enough, they saw Su Shu standing there holding the elite beast, with big eyes facing small eyes. Su Shu's eyes were full of affection. Of course Su Shu is affectionate. This is more than 10,000 yuan. The reason why it is more than 10,000 yuan is because the crystal core of the elite beast alone is worth 10,000 yuan, and the fur, flesh, bones, etc. can also be sold for some money, with a total value of about 15,000 yuan. In addition, this is a new breed of exotic beast, so it might be worth more money. Immediately, the elite beast also reacted and began to struggle wildly. However, surrounded by Su Shu's weakness, its struggle seemed very weak. Su Shu threw it directly towards Wang Yushan. Kill it quickly. Wang Yushan was also a little excited for a moment. You must know that this is the first time she has faced an elite beast since her awakening, and she is about to kill the opponent. If under normal circumstances, if she wanted to kill the elite beasts now, she would have to at least be assisted by a few bronze superpower masters who were good at fighting, so that she could have a chance to come into contact with the elite beasts, and it was basically impossible to kill them. Roar. It seemed that the ordinary beasts also realized that something was wrong with the disappearance of the elite beasts, and they immediately let out terrifying roars that resounded throughout the mountain range. Wang Yushan no longer cared so much at this time, and stabbed out 7 or 8 shots with the spear in his hand at a dizzying speed. During the struggle, the elite beast's head was stabbed into a sieve. Roar. As if sensing the death of the elite alien beasts, countless alien beasts roared and rushed towards this side crazily. Taking advantage of this time, Kun Sheng and Li Yafei had taken out the crystal cores of several ordinary beasts they had killed before and threw the bodies aside. Seeing the densely packed alien beasts below coming this way, Murakami quickly put the elite alien beasts on his shoulders. Run. The 4 people hurriedly continued running towards the mountain. Su Shu pointed in a direction while running. Let's go over there. I observed it yesterday. It's easy to defend but difficult to attack. The other 3 were surprised after hearing this. They heard that Su Shu didn't want to leave. Li Yafei was obviously anxious. Su Shu, we should evacuate as soon as possible instead of taking risks here. It is very dangerous to continue like this. Su Shu, if another Lord-level beast comes out of it, worth more than 100,000, or if it is caught alive, is it possible that it is worth millions? Kun Sheng said quickly. Brother Shu, stop talking, I'll do it with you. Wang Yushan also nodded quickly. Go over first and take a look. Li Yafei frowned immediately when he saw this. But she was lying in her heart when she said she wasn't moved, and in the end she could only nod in agreement. Then Su Shu ran ahead and led the other 3 people to the observed place. Soon the 4 of them came to a platform on the top of the mountain. Except for the way they came, the other 3 sides were cliffs, making it easy to defend but difficult to attack. Even Wang Yushan couldn't help but wonder, when did you observe this place? Su Shu, I saw it through the moonlight when I was keeping vigil. Under the moonlight, you can see 3 cliffs here at a glance. Su Shu continued. In a moment, the village students will be responsible for holding back the alien beasts that come in front, Wang Yushan will be responsible for finding opportunities to attack, and Li Yafei will be responsible for assisting in recovery and treatment. I will be responsible for controlling the fish that slip through the net, and keeping an eye on the Lord aliens that may appear at any time. Beast. The most important thing is the village students. If the power consumption is too great and Li Yafei can't replenish it, just shout, and then we will go down from the cliff behind. I will go down first, and then use the power to pick you up directly. While talking, Su Shu had already taken out a bundle of ropes from his backpack, threw one end down the cliff behind, and fixed the other end. Seeing that Su Shu's plan was so thorough, the 3 of them nodded one after another. Roar. At this time, the roar of the alien beasts came, and then densely packed alien beasts rushed over from the way they came. Murakuo stood at the intersection without hesitation and blocked the 3 people. Wang Yushan stood behind the village student holding the spear tightly, ready to attack at any time. Roar! The alien beast pounced on him instantly, and the earthy yellow light enveloped Murinshang's body. Suddenly, a set of armor appeared on his body, wrapping him tightly. Puff puff puff. Several strange beasts pounced on him and bit him continuously, making muffled sounds, but they were unable to cause any substantial harm to Murakami. PFF. At this time, a spear pierced out from the village student's crotch and penetrated the head of a strange beast. The village student was immediately frightened. Sister, can you not come from here? It's too dangerous, I'm scared. Wang Yushan pouted. What are you afraid of as a grown man? The worst thing you can do is serve the emperor. The village student suddenly refused. What are you afraid of? What's the big deal? You said it lightly. Wang Yushan. Don't worry, I've been practicing for 2.5 years, I'm sure I'm accurate. Murakami was speechless, but he didn't say anything more and concentrated on dealing with the attacks of the strange beasts. However, as more and more strange beasts rushed towards him, Murakami gradually began to feel a little weak. After all, no matter how high the quality of his powers were, he was only a black iron power user who had just awakened. He couldn't withstand this intensity of power consumption for long. Brother Shu, are you here? I can't hold on any longer. Murakuo couldn't help but spoke with difficulty. Su Shu said speechlessly. Why are you standing there and letting the beasts attack? Can't you use your fists to hit them? The villager was stunned after hearing this. Ah! I forgot that I can move. Su Shu was even more speechless. What kind of pig teammates are these? After Su Shu's reminder, the villager punched 2 or 3 beasts that rushed over. Puff! After a muffled sound, several beasts were directly knocked off the cliff by the villager. Looking at the beasts struggling while falling, the villager couldn't help laughing. Ha 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 ha, cool. Come on, I want to hit 100. The fight was in full swing, and Su Shu was staring at the gate of the beasts, waiting for the Lord to appear. A few elite beasts appeared on the way, but Su Shu ignored them, mainly because he didn't want to waste his ability. After waiting for a long time, the voice of the village student came from behind. My superpower is almost exhausted. After hearing this, Li Yafei quickly took action. When he raised his hand, a water dragon appeared, swam around his arm, and finally rushed out and entered the village student's body. Suddenly, the village student felt that he was fine again, and his superpower was at least half restored. In this way, more than 10 minutes have been persisted. Li Yafei's superpower has been exhausted. After all, she has SS superpowers, and each consumption is particularly huge. At most, she can release it 3 or 4 times. Finally, she frowned and looked at Su Shu. My superpower is exhausted, or we should evacuate. Su Shu stared at the gate of the strange beasts, and he was reluctant to move his eyes for a long time. If he wants to encounter such an opportunity next time, he can only wait until next time. In the end, he had no choice but to take risks. Su Shu could only nod. Let's go. But the moment he looked away, he suddenly saw a blue figure from the corner of his eye. Su Shu quickly looked back, and immediately saw a blue-skinned alien beast with 3 heads slowly walking out of the alien beast door. He was more than twice as tall as the ordinary beast next to him, with 3 heads raised high, and every movement revealed the aura of a superior. Roar! Suddenly, the 3 heads of the Lord Alien Beast let out a roar at the same time, shaking the entire mountain range. Ho ho ho! All the other ordinary beasts also roared at the same time, seeming to be responding and welcoming the Lord's arrival. Then, they found that their Lord had disappeared, leaving only a groan lingering in the air. Mastiff Wu! All the alien beasts suddenly looked confused, not knowing which link had the problem. Let's go! At this time, Su Shu threw the 3-headed beast lord in his hand off the cliff, and he yelled and quickly climbed down with the rope. The second one was Li Yafei, who climbed down after Su Shu. Wang Yushan also put away her spear and climbed down. Murakuo, on the other hand, resisted and retreated, and was directly forced to the edge of the cliff. Just when he was about to be forced off the cliff. Ah! He only heard him groan and suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in Su Shu's arms. The two looked at each other, looking slightly embarrassed. Su Shu quickly threw him to the ground, turned around and prepared to lift the Lord Beast. Quickly go. Wang Yushan and Li Yafei quickly came over to join hands, and then the three of them carried it and ran away. While running, Su Shu suddenly said, "Why do you feel like we are missing one person?" Li Yafei rolled his eyes. Who else could it be? The village student is still over there. The three of them subconsciously turned their heads to look, and immediately saw the village student lying there motionless. Su Shu shouted directly, "Musheng, leave quickly." The village student lay on the ground and used his last bit of strength to speak. "I want to, too, but I'm so powerless." Su Shu suddenly remembered that his superpower seemed to last for 1 minute. There was nothing they could do, so the three of them quickly went back to pick up the village student and run away. "But what about the alien beast lord?" Su Shu suddenly asked again. Then the three of them put the village boy on the ground and went to lift the alien beast lord. The village student lying on the ground was speechless. "Holy crap, are you still not human anymore?" However, when the three of them turned around to lift the alien beast lord again, they found that the other party was standing there, with 3 pairs of eyes on the 3 heads staring at the three of them coldly. The eyes on each head are focused on one person, which is fair enough. Chi chi chi. Dense sounds came from the other party, and blue arcs of electricity circulated and condensed on the other party. Although it looks dangerous, it is not safe at all. At the same time, the strange beasts on the cliff also jumped down one after another and surrounded a few people. "Run!" Su Shu turned around and ran, and Li Yafei and Wang Yushan quickly followed. When passing by a village student, don't forget to lift him up and run with him. "Holy shit, after all the hard work, we just give up. I'm not willing to accept it," the village boy who was being carried away said with a look of reluctance on his face. Su Shu said angrily, "You are not such a burden, otherwise we would have carried him far away. You have the nerve to say that. You're not the one with the most powerful abilities. You know, I held a watermelon knife in my hand and slashed from the Red Sea Gate to the Dragon Source Gate without even blinking. Su Shu, you haven't blinked for so long. Aren't your eyes dry? Morale, is this the point I'm talking about?" Su Shu was trying to get back to him, but an electric ball chased the three of them. The three of them quickly turned left and right in an attempt to avoid the pursuit of the electric ball. As a result, the opponent seemed to have eyes, twisting left and right with them, as if he would not stop until he hit them. Wang Yushan gritted his teeth when he saw this. "I'll block it, you two lift it up." Su Shu and Li Yafei could only nod, and each of them carried the village student's head and continued running. Wang Yushan summoned a spear, held it tightly and stabbed at the electric ball. Boom! The moment the electric ball came into contact with the tip of the gun, a huge explosion suddenly occurred, and Wang Yushan was directly enveloped by the explosion. Not long after, Wang Yushan ran out with a broken spear, his swollen, burnt hair, and a dark face. "Run!" While shouting, the white teeth in his mouth were particularly conspicuous. Then she caught up with Su Shu and Li Yafei, and the three of them continued to carry the village students away. After running for a long time, Su Shu suddenly asked, "Wait a minute, I remember that the duration of my superpower is 1 minute. And several people have been running for almost 10 minutes. Li Yafei and Wang Yushan also realized that something was wrong. The three of them looked at each other, and then suddenly looked at the village student in their hands, with anger in their eyes that could not be concealed. Seeing that he was discovered, the village student smiled awkwardly at the three of them. "Well, you listen to my quibbles. No, explain, I just want you to exercise more, you are too weak." Li Yafei shouted. "When has it been? You can still laugh." Su Shu, beat him. The three of them immediately threw the village boy to the ground and beat him up, regardless of the strange beast chasing him. The three of them didn't stop until the alien beast behind them was approaching. "Run!" Then the three of them turned around and ran away. "Wait for me." Murakuo quickly got up and followed. As the distance gradually widened, Su Shu spoke, "Ready." The other three nodded at the same time. Su Shu activated his supernatural power instantly, and the Beast Lord instantly appeared in Su Shu's arms. The others seemed to be prepared, and they raised their hands to catch it, and the four of them ran forward with it. At this time, the Beast Lord was still confused, not knowing what happened. But as they ran, the four stopped again, because in front of them, a dense crowd of beasts appeared at some point. The three subconsciously looked at Su Shu, waiting for him to make a decision. Unconsciously, Su Shu had become the backbone of the four. Su Shu gritted his teeth, took out a dagger from his arms, and put it on the neck of one of the Beast Lord's heads. Get out of the way. Otherwise I will kill it. Suddenly, the three villagers were dumbfounded, and looked at Su Shu as if he were a fool. Even the 6 pairs of eyes of the Beast Lords in their hands showed contempt for Su Shu. Roar! Suddenly, all the beasts roared at the same time and rushed towards the 4 people frantically. The 4 people had only 2 words in their minds: it's over. Just when the 4 were about to be drowned by the beasts, snowflakes suddenly floated in the sky, and all the beasts stopped in place instantly. Then, the 4 saw a scene that they would never forget. The seemingly insignificant snowflakes suddenly turned into ice crystals when they touched the beasts, spreading and covering the whole body of the beasts, freezing them instantly. Crack, crack. The beasts that were frozen in the air suddenly fell down, fell to the ground and turned into ice cubes. The terrifying cold breath came, making Su Shu and the other 4 shiver unconsciously. There were figures in the sky, and several figures flew towards the gate of alien beasts. One of the voices fell in front of Su Shu and the other 4. His body was constantly emitting terrifying power fluctuations, and it was obvious that the snowflakes in the sky were released by him. Needless to say, the person coming was none other than Zhao Xilan. Hello, Chief Zhao, the 4 people shouted in unison. Zhao Xilan did not respond to them, but stared at the Lord Beast in their hands. Where did it come from? Su Shu spread his hands. Of course I caught him. Zhao Xilan hurriedly stepped forward to check, and then his eyes swept over Su Shu and the others with uncertainty. Did you catch him? This is the alien Beast Lord. You must know that although the alien Beast Lord is still classified as the Black Iron level, his own strength is already equivalent to the Bronze level. Ordinary bronze superpowers are not necessarily his opponents. But Su Shu and the others in front of them have just awakened. They actually captured a lord. Who would believe it? Li Yafei quickly explained. Sir Zhao, it's the reason why Su Shu has special powers that we can catch. Zhao Xilan quickly looked at Su Shu and frowned. I remember you were an E-level talent, right? He was deeply impressed by Su Shu, because for this person, the old boy Wang Wuchen begged him for a long time and made various guarantees. However, Wang Wuchen also has his own unique skill, that is, he is good at discovering the advantages of low-quality superpowers. He has sent people to various places before, and every time he asked his grandfather to tell his grandmother, but every time the results were unexpected. People played a big role in the end. Based on this, Zhao Xilan finally agreed to the other party. But in fact, he had never been optimistic about it, but it was only his first mission and it gave him such a big surprise. Especially when he thought of Su Shu's weird name, Zhao Xilan felt weird in his heart. Brother, give me a hug. When he first saw it, he just wanted to say, hug your sister. After hearing this, Su Shu nodded seriously. Yes. What's wrong with the E-level powers? Can't E-level powers capture the Lord? The corner of Zhao Xilan's mouth twitched. Su Shu didn't know, but in all his decades of life, Zhao Xilan had seen someone relying on an E-level superpower to catch a lord and beast for the first time. During the more than 1,000 years since the Gate of Strange Beasts appeared, there were no records or legends in this regard. Even a novel would not dare to write like this. Anyway, the status of E-level abilities has been very stable in history, and it has always maintained its garbage status. Zhao Xilan glanced at Su Shu one more time, and then said, let's go to the car and put it in a forbidden cage. If you want to capture a living alien beast, you must put it in a forbidden cage. Normally, they would be thrown in after being seriously injured. Of course, there are many disadvantages to this, that is, it is easy to die during transportation. It is rare to catch an intact Lord Beast. The living alien beasts are very useful, and those with supernatural powers can extract new powers from them. Newly discovered species of exotic beasts like this can also be used to study the opponent's weaknesses, superpower quality, habits, etc., which is even more useful. Su Shu was confused. Sir, aren't you going to help suppress the alien beast gate? Zhao Xilan, I have made arrangements in advance. A Black Iron level alien beast gate can't make any trouble, so let's go. Yes. After the 4 people answered, they carried the alien beast lord and followed Zhao Xilan out of the mountains. On the way, Su Shu will throw a weak signal to the alien beast lord at the right time to prevent the other party from rising up to resist. By the time they were carried to the bottom of the mountain, the four of them were already out of breath, and Su Shu's superpowers were almost exhausted. Fortunately, Li Yafei recovered some of his powers on the way and threw a water dragon spell to Su Shu to help him recover some of his powers, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to persist here. Several people worked together to throw the alien beast lord into the forbidden alien cage, and then breathed a sigh of relief after closing the door. Su Shu looked at the forbidden cage and couldn't help but ask Zhao Shilin, "Sir Zhao, can you give me 10 or 8 of these cages? It will be convenient for me to capture the lord in the future." After hearing this, Zhao Shilin couldn't help but roll his eyes. "What a beautiful idea you have. The forbidden alien cage is explicitly prohibited from private use, and even I only have the authority to call it. It can be said that the most stringent thing about banning exotic cages is not only the reason why they are expensive to build. The main thing is that I am afraid that people with bad intentions will use it to pretend to be fake. Once it is loaded into it, it is no different from a strange beast being loaded into it. It is also unable to use its powers, and living powers users also have one use, and that is to extract powers." Okay. Su Shu looked disappointed, and then asked, "How much is the living alien beast lord worth? If the official bid is too low, we want to take it to the black market to see." After hearing this, Zhao Shilin couldn't help but look around Su Shu, and was a little confused by this kid's brain circuit. "What do you think? This is a new breed of beast lord. Even if I don't give you anything in return, do you think you can take it?" "No reward." Su Shu was shocked after hearing this, and used the last bit of his power to throw a weak one to Zhao Shilin. Zhao Shilin was also stunned, and then he walked over and held Su Shu in his hand and shook it. "How dare you use superpowers on me? If you dare to use superpowers on me today, you will dare to kill me in the future." Li Yafei and the others did not expect Su Shu to be so brave. They looked at Su Shu with their mouths wide open. "Well, sir, my power is just out of control," Su Shu said quickly. Zhao Shilin kept shaking Su Shu, shaking it until it was dizzying. "I think you are just afraid of not giving you the corresponding reward, so you are unhappy with me and want to teach me a lesson, right?" Su Shu shook his head quickly. No, sir, I just want to test the limit of my power. What level can it work on?" In fact, Su Shu's real idea in his heart was to use his weakness to immobilize Zhao Shilin, and then knock him out with a sap. After that, the four of them drove the alien beast lord directly to the black market to sell him. Even if he is pursued by then, it will only take a few years of working on a sewing machine. It is worth it for the lord of alien beasts. After all, a living alien beast lord is worth at least $1 million. What's precious is not its crystal core, but its abilities that can be extracted. Zhao Shilin glanced at Su Shu for a few times in surprise, then dropped it, and then said, "Your power is indeed special, but it can only work on black iron level lords and below. If you encounter a black iron overlord in the future, or bronze lord, just run away." Su Shu's eyes lit up after hearing this. In other words, it is effective against bronze elite beasts. Zhao Shilin nodded. "It's effective." Su Shu nodded. Okay, I'll catch the bronze elite beast when I get back." Zhao Shilin. "Don't mess around, the horror in the bronze beast gate is beyond your imagination." Su Shu nodded, seeming to have listened, but the glint in his eyes betrayed him. Zhao Shilin didn't care about him, and then said, "You have successfully completed the mission this time. I will give you the permission to exchange military merits later, and this alien beast lord will also exchange it for you with corresponding military merits. Military merit can be exchanged for many precious resources in the military merit system. I will add your contact information later and send you the website." Then the four people got into the car, and Zhao Shilin sat in the driver's seat. Before starting the car, he took out his mobile phone and added the contact information of the four people, and then sent them a website link. "You can board it with your ID card, but your information has not been officially changed to pre-selection. When I go back, I will completely change your identity, and then you can redeem it." The four of them in Su Shu quickly clicked in. The first thing that popped up was the login interface. After logging in, the confidentiality regulations popped up, and they had to sign before they could enter. After seeing this confidentiality regulation, Su Shu and others understood why they had not heard anything about the military merit system before, because it was strictly confidential. After signing, you will officially enter the page. At the top of the page are written the options for each power level: black iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, king level, emperor level, legend. Are there any legendary items? Su Shu was shocked inside. Out of curiosity, Su Shu subconsciously clicked on it, and suddenly, a blank page popped up. Items are waiting to be online. Su Shu was speechless, waiting to go online. The problem is to have it. You must know that there are no legendary powers in the entire world until now. The reason why legend is called legend is because it exists in the realm of legend. Even exotic beasts are not legendary, so where do legendary items come from? Okay, even if there is one, who would put it in there and exchange it for others? It's not just the top superpowers who have to use it first. Then Su Shu clicked on the emperor level again, and just like the legend, there was nothing. There are king level ones, but Su Shu doesn't have permission to check them. Later, Su Shu understood that if the gap between his strength and strength was too big, he wouldn't even think about it, so he simply clicked on the black iron option. Then another option popped up: crystal core, living beast, and supernatural equipment. Su Shu casually clicked on the crystal core, and the options popped up again: ordinary, elite, leader, overlord, beast king, legend. Out of curiosity, Su Shu clicked on the legend option. What surprised Su Shu was that there was actually an exchangeable item. Ice Sky Butterfly. There is no other information, only one line of explanation. Whenever it appears, the world will freeze, and all living things will become extinct. The Samadhi Fire King will personally capture and seal it. Price: 50 million. Su Shu counted the zeros and suddenly took a breath. 50 million military merit. Boy, don't look anymore, that's the existence I long for too. At this time, Zhao Shilin, who was driving, suddenly spoke. He seemed to know that Su Shu was looking at Bing Tiandi. Su Shu suddenly remembered that Zhao Shilin seemed to be an ice power user, and this ice sky butterfly was indeed a temptation that he could not resist. Then he couldn't help but ask, how much does 50 million military merits equal? Zhao Shilin said without looking back, a military merit can be exchanged for an ordinary black iron beast crystal core. After hearing this, Su Shu subconsciously opened his mouth. Isn't that military merit equivalent to 1,000 yuan? Then Su Shu counted with his fingers again, and then said a terrifying number: 50 billion. I want to catch it too. Ha ha ha, being young means being energetic. Zhao Shilin couldn't help laughing. Do you know how terrifying the legendary beasts are? You just want to go there. Let me tell you this, when faced with the black iron legendary beasts, diamond level superpowers have no choice but to run away. Only master level superpowers can fight with him. Otherwise, why would it be Lord Samadhi Fire King who captured this ice sky butterfly? He is a king level superpower. Su Shu's mouth opened wider. Is the black iron level so terrifying? Then wouldn't we be unable to deal with the higher level ones? Zhao Shilin. Yes, multiple kings can come together, or ask our emperors to take action. We have 5 emperors in China. They are the core of China and the strongest in the entire world. All legends and legends, when the beast breaks out, they take action personally. But don't think too much. Legend has it that strange beasts are rare, and even if they are, they rarely come out of the strange beast gate. But once they come out, it will definitely be a horrific disaster. They have always been a sword hanging over the head of mankind, and they may fall at any time and destroy all mankind. Su Shu was curious. Have you seen it, sir? Zhao Shilin nodded. I met him once. At that time, I was still a silver superpower. I went to participate in suppressing the outbreak of Tiger Hill Gate, bronze level, and then I saw it. It was a black tiger beast with wings. It was as tall as dozens of stories. As soon as it appeared, the world collapsed. Its aura even made the surrounding air freeze. With a flap of its wings, it covered the sky. The sun is blocked and the storm is raging. Were you caught later? Su Shu couldn't help but asked curiously. Capture. How to capture him? At that time, 3 king-level adults almost failed to fight him. Finally, a king-level adult was transferred to kill him. That thing recovers very quickly, and the forbidden cage has no effect on it, and there's no such big cage, so it's impossible to catch him alive. The four of them couldn't help but feel yearning as they listened. Is this the world of high-level superpowers? It's so magnificent. Su Shu nodded and stared at the ice sky butterfly on his phone. When I have money, I will definitely exchange this ice sky butterfly and give it to the officer. Zhao Shilin was shocked after hearing this. I'm serious about it. The temptation of Bing Tiandi to Zhao Shilin was such that he could not even say no words of rejection. Su Shu nodded. Well, sir, it should be okay to invest 10,000 black iron elite crystal cores in me first, right? Zhao Shilin froze after hearing this. You mean, you want to get 10,000 elite crystal cores from me with just one sentence? Do you think you are seriously ill? Su Shu could only sigh. Oh, that's a pity. After I exchange for the ice sky butterfly, I can only release it and accumulate merits. Zhao Shilin almost yelled. I think I will release you first. Su Shu quickly changed the subject. By the way, what level of superpower is the commander? And what level is our principal? Zhao Shilin. Don't ask about the things in the world. It's not good for you to know too much. Su Shu was speechless. It's not good for me if you don't know. At this time, the village student sitting in the back row said, I know, Commander Zhao is a gold-level superpower. He was the top scorer in the 979th college entrance examination. Quote. At this time, Wang Yushan also spoke. Your principal was the top scorer in the 978th college entrance examination, and now he is also at the gold level. Su Shu suddenly turned back and looked at the two people. How do you know so much? And you are not from our school. Tell me, are you hiding something from us? At this time, Li Yafei said unhappily. All high-quality superpowers are more or less inherited, and they must have their own backgrounds. Do you think everyone is like you, who came from the slums? Parents are low class, and the descendants will never change the low-class nature in their bones for a lifetime. Quote. After this, Su Shu shut up. Wang Yushan and the village student, including Zhao Shilin, did not speak. The whole car fell into silence instantly. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.